I'm gonna start. I'm just gonna wait till a little bit more people come in just to hear the beginning. So let's wait a little
No
bit.
problem.
All right. Um, Obviously, you see the title basically going to be talking about elite bloodlines, secret society,
Absolutely.
Illuminati type stuff. Yep.
Yes.
So I'm just going to start off by saying one thing that needs to be set straight is that many people that dabble into this kind of esoteric knowledge sometimes tend to think that one can just become a part of the Illuminati or join it. You'll hear some of these people say, "Oh, this celebrity is in the Illuminati, that person is in the Illuminati," and so on and so forth, so on and so forth. But the truth is that the Illuminati secret societies are a bloodline cult. One does not and cannot join or become a part of it. You can only be a puppet and play and you can only become a puppet and or a plaything for this cult. And in return for you being their professional bitch nigga, pushing their agendas and sucking their dicks, they will make you either rich, famous, or both. But you will always be their property. You'll always be their slave, and you have to play by their rules. So, yeah, what do you think of that, Demiurge?
Yes, I absolutely agree. All these royal and papal bloodlines are ruling the world since the time immemorial. Those are reptilian bloodlines, gene bloodlines, insectoid bloodlines, archon bloodlines, the demiurge, femiurge bloodlines, and they have been ruling the world since the beginning. Uh, uh, Now I'm going to read a document about the Merovingian family, which is one of the most famous Illuminati family, and it is stated that all these families are the major players in the advancing agenda of the global control over thousands of years, and these bloodlines have expanded their power out of the Near and Middle East of the ancient world to control the entire world today. The Merovingian family, the one common link of their bloodline is that of the Philip of Macedonia, who has married an Olympias, and their son was Alexander the Great, who was basically a conqueror of the world for the Chosenite tribe, and was later disposed when he outlived his usefulness. Other notable members of the Merovingian family are the Ptolemy first Soter, and also the Cleopatra Philopator, which also had who also married the most famous Roman emperor Julius Caesar, and she bore him a son who became Ptolemy the 14th, and these bloodlines are essentially all intermarrying with each other. Also, another strain of this Merovingian bloodline is basically the King James I of England, uh, King Ferdinand of Spain, Queen Isabella of Castile. Same bloodline constitutes the, the Constantine the Great, and also Herod the Great, and also Mark Anton, and also uh, Mark Antony is also involved in this bloodline, and they are stated to have moved into France and Northern Europe through the Franks and Merovingians, in sense, and this is why they got their name Merovingian bloodline. But this is just for the beginning. I mean, I completely agree with you. All these celebrities, these politicians, be it prime ministers, presidents, then high religious figures such as bishops, archbishops, cardinals, popes, various uh, high ranking personnel in the world, and everyone else is basically the part of these bloodlines. And in these societies, it was already predetermined for them to be there, and this is why they are in such a position of power. Anyway, please continue.
All right, so yeah, I agree with everything you said. Basically, you basically laid it out. To go into specifics, right? In order to truly become a part, well, in order to truly be a part of the Illuminati secret societies, you you have to be born into it through family bloodline connections. Particularly, we have to take a look at things such as royalty, like Demiurge Killer said, and also generally iconic wealthy families. Some of these families include the British royal family, obviously, which of course entails individuals such as Queen Elizabeth, Prince Philip, Prince Harry, Charles III, Prince William, and obviously many more. You can just search that up. You can also see the banking family known as the Rothschilds. Um, so, as far as what celebrities are in the Illuminati and what celebrities are just puppets, in order to identify which celebrities are either puppets for the elite that sold their souls for fame and riches, and which ones are actually members of the bloodline, all you simply have to do is check their blood relations. Who are they related to? So, for example, Beyonce is actually the 25th cousin, once removed, of Queen Elizabeth II. Johnny Depp is also another cousin of Queen Elizabeth through Edward III. Angelina Jolie is a descendant of French royalty through her mother, and her lineage can be traced all the way back to the 12th century French king. And yes, she is also related to Queen Elizabeth. Brad Pitt has roots that go all the way back to King Henry II of England, and there are many more famous people with royal blood, such as Tom Hanks, Ozzy Osbourne, Alec Baldwin, Sigourney Weaver, which is the woman who played Ripley in the Alien franchise. You also have Madonna, Barack Obama, the entire Bush family, and an extensive number of politicians like Demiurge Killer talked about. So, yeah, what you can go ahead again if you want.
Yes, thank you very much. I will say this: those are the 13 most well-known families: the Astor bloodline, the Bundy bloodline, the Collins bloodline, the DuPont bloodline, the Freeman bloodline, the Kennedy bloodline, the Lee bloodline, the Onassis bloodline, the Rockefeller bloodline, uh, the Russell bloodline, the Van Dewey bloodline, the, the Merovingian bloodline, and the Rothschild bloodline. Anyway, those are the most well known bloodlines, but they are far from being anywhere near the most powerful bloodlines. You have the bloodlines such as the Medici and the Massimo family, which are far, far more powerful. And for example, we can see that example uh, the Merovingians were known first and foremost as the goddess Diana worshippers or worshippers because they're basically a warmongers. So they're basically worshipping a Femiurge, the evil bitch ruling this entire world. Windsors are the another Merovingian bloodline, and from the Merovingians, the bloodline's connections to the present include Charlemagne or Charles the Great, who ruled as an emperor of the West in the Holy Roman Empire as a stream of French kings, including Robert II and various Philips and Louises on the throne of France. This The bloodline relatives of the Merovingians are the Medicis and the House of Lorraine. And also, this bloodline includes the Habsburgs, which was the most powerful family in Europe under the Holy Roman Empire, and which has interbred in basically every royal and banking dynasty there is out there. There is a Plantagenet royal dynasty. This bloodline also includes the King John who signed the Magna Carta, English kings Henry I, II, and III, who were extremely closer to the Knights Templars, as was the King John. Then we have the Mary Stuart and the Stuart dynasty. We have King George, King Edward, uh, Queen Elizabeth, Prince Charles, Princes William and Harry from Charles's marriage to Princess Diana, U.S. presidents such as George Washington, John Adams, John Quincy Adams, Thomas Jefferson, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and George Bush are all named in the charts as the strains of this bloodline. And this is just a Merovingian bloodline. There are 12 more bloodlines which are also along with them, and also these 13 bloodlines are are only the uh, lower families of the true elite. 33 of the 42 presidents to Clinton of the United States are related to the Charlemagne, and 19 are related to the England's Edward III, and both are of the bloodline of the Merovingians. And this same Merovingian bloodline includes the Scottish families of Lords of Galloway and Comnes, uh, the Marie Louise of Austria, Kaiser Wilhelm, and Maximilian the Habsburg Emperor of Mexico. Merovingian bloodline also includes the Donald Trump, the 13th to 26th real Illuminist Grey Masters and Saturnalia bloodlines. Rothschilds had a family connections to Hitler, Churchill, Queen Elizabeth, and Stalin, and they're all second cousins to them. Lincoln, FDR, and all other presidents in our history, besides Van Buren, are also all lower level cousins, but not second cousins. It is all basically a Druid and Satan worship, which basically includes McDonald's and Vanderbilt and other 13 real Illuminist Grey Masters are Italian and a Roman Catholic cover, such as Matteiano, Flamino, Vaticano, Adogali, Solare, Lateranenese, Minerveo, Macuteo, Salustiano, Quirinale, Agonalis, Piniciano, e Esquiline and Esquiline. It's important to know that all these bloodlines are reptilian in origin, are jinn in origin, and are all descendants from the fallen angels, which are basically controlled opposition to the celestial Stalin herself. What we also have to understand is those are all Nephilim hybrid bloodlines, and all royal and priestly bloodlines and all secret societies are in these bloodlines. There is not a single, they're all in dark arts, they're all in occult ritual murders and every other wicked and abominable thing, and they have ruled all kingdoms in the entire history of this world. And it seems to me that they will continue. All these great resets are their doing, and it's all artificial. Anyway, please continue.
Mm. So yeah, what people need to understand is that a lot of the same people that were ruling back then in the old times are still ruling and in power now. Nothing has changed. Literally, the only thing is that back then these people were worshipped and known and praised as kings and queens. Now they are worshipped and known and praised as celebrities and politicians. Only their titles throughout history have changed, but not who holds the power. I mean, some of these brain dead niggas will literally kill their own family members for a celebrity or their validation. I mean, do you not see the idol worship that goes on, especially in this day and age? A lot of y'all don't get it. You think that kings, queens, princes, and princesses only exist in places outside of America or in certain like other places. No, um, they're still here, and they never left. They've always been here. Um, these people look at celebrities and politicians to save them as if they're gods amongst men. You know, they tell them to jump, they say how high. They tell them to put a dick in their ass, they probably do that shit too. And as you can even take a look at and before I even say that, the reason as to why they put these people in positions of power and they do all this controlled opposition shit is because when the elite want to enforce their agendas, they need to have some type of figure that everybody is going to listen to, that everybody it looks up to, and literally just, okay, if this person does it, I'm gonna do it too. That's what they need. So going back to what I was about to say, I remember when they were first pushing the sharpshooter mandates, and whenever they would have a celebrity interview, you know, they would tell the celebrity to, hey, give your thoughts on the whole sharpshooter mandate. When that's like, and then they'd be like, oh well, I took it, and everybody else should take it. And you would literally have brain dead idiots that would be skeptical, that they were skeptical about whether or not to take it or whether what choice to make. And what a celebrity thought was literally the end game of their decision, which is just dumb as hell. I mean, people sit there like, oh well, Dwayne the Rock Johnson said it was I should take it, so that means the way is safe. It's like, I don't give a fuck what Dwayne the Rock Johnson said. I'm a grown ass man. You have hair on your balls, and you care about what a goddamn celebrity said. Make your own choices. These people come from literally royal bloodlines, man. And and to be honest with you, it actually goes back to a lot of what is said within the black pill when they talk about genetic determinism. And genetic determinism is more than just looks and how you're going to do in dating. Genetic determinism literally determines everything. Johnny Depp was always going to be Johnny Depp through bloodline. Beyonce was always going to be Beyonce because of her bloodline. Once you have, the vast majority of the time, right? Once you have this royal blood, they will make sure that you are put in these positions. Beyonce is not a celebrity. She's simply just a princess or a queen. That's really all she is. But the title has changed. They just say she's a celebrity, but realistically, all she is like a princess slash queen. That's it. That's really it. And like I said, a lot of these fucking retards will kill their own mother for a goddamn celebrity. And that this is the reason why they put these people in these positions, because they already know, okay, when we want to push our agendas, we can just everybody looks up to tell them, okay, I made this decision, and then based off of that, they're just gonna follow that celebrity, and other people are gonna follow what everybody else is doing. That's really all it is. And you have to make the choice to not be like these people. You got to use your fucking brain. But yeah, that's all I have to say for now.
Anyway, I completely agree with you. I would also add among them Floyd Mayweather as the worst possible example to follow for for any people, especially young people and especially young black men. This man amassed a 50-0 record fighting in rigged fights. He was a five division boxing champion. He's also called the Money Mayweather. I think that he's the boxer who won the most money. I mean, this guy is basically a satanic sellout, a reptilian, a transformer. Probably his current body is probably seventh or eighth cloned. his entire family was shit, and basically this guy fucked his best friend's girl or wife in front of him, and this friend killed himself, and this guy laughed. I mean, this guy was, is, and will be a satanic piece of shit. So this is another notable example of a sellout. I mean, entire reality is rigged. I mean, politics, sports, education, media, military, secret service, banking, business, religion. Everything is rigged. Uh, all of that is controlled by the Saturnalian Brotherhood. That is the real 13 Zoroastrian bloodlines of the Illuminati, which are divided into the House of Borgia, House of Breakspear, House of Somalia, House of Orsini, and the Great Popes are coming from the House of Orsini, and the Great Pope controls both the White Pope and the Jesuit general, who is the Black Pope. And the White Pope is always a throwaway and a distractor. There is also a House of Conti, House of Chili, a House of Colonia, a House of Farnese, House of Medici, House of Gaetani, House of Pamphili, a House of Este, and House of Aldobrandini. They're also ruling all the crime families, and the Pope is the godfather. He is the ultimate boss, ultimate crime boss of all these families, and they're all bowing down to him, and he is the ultimate crime lord. And the following Greek Ptolemaic dynasty rulers, which are ruling from the antiquity, are in the full control of the company of Jesus, High Great Council of Ten, and the Black Pope. And that is basically a black nobility, and black nobility is basically a council of nobility which is ruling from ancient times and which is basically controlling the world, and they're controlling all secret societies and all politics and banking, education, and media through their puppets. Black nobility includes House of Bernadotte, which is coming from Sweden, House of Bourbon, which is coming from France, House of Braganza, which is coming from Portugal, House of Grimaldi, which is coming from Monaco, House of Guelph, which is coming from Britain, which is the most important bloodline, House of Habsburg, which is coming from Austria, House of Hanover, which is coming from Germany, which is second most important house, House of Hohenzollern, also from Germany, House of Karađorđević, Yugoslavia, but it is a former house, House of Liechtenstein, which is coming from Liechtenstein, House of Nassau, Luxembourg, and House of Oldenburg, which is coming from Denmark, House of Orange, which is coming from Netherlands, House of Savoy, which is coming from Italy, House of Wettin, which is coming from Belgium, House of Wittensbach, which is coming from Germany, House of Wittenberg, which is coming from Germany, and House of Zogu, which is coming from Albania. And connections exist between House of Guelph, original black nobility families of Venice, and from the House of Windsor, and Guelphs are intertwined with the German aristocracy through the House of Hanover. Anyway, I just want to add that all these royal families, they are not acting on their own. They're all acting under the command of papal bloodline, which are commanded by the archons, and which is commanded by the demiurge Femiurge herself. And the Femiurge, if there is a higher entity, is commanded by the higher entities. There is no good, there is only evil in all realms. And basically, I have listened to your last video called Why Shouldn't You Kill Yourself? Amazing video, standing ovation, because who knows where you're going to end up, in a place with even worse reptilians and monsters. Anyway, I'm going to continue. All these families are connected and they control the Committee of 300, the the Club of Rome, the CFR, the RIAA, the Bilderbergers, the Round Table, the European black nobility families, and the connection to the Harrimans and the Med Georgi Bundys. The House of Hanover seems to be German, however, it is Chosenite, small hat, as well as the House of Habsburg. The, and the Pindar is represented by the golden cap on the pyramid. The next layer, or the eye on the pyramid, represents the 13 ruling families. They are as follows: that is a Rothschild, Bauer or Bauer, which is Pindar, Bruce, Kennedy, the Medici, Hanover, Habsburg, Krupp, Plantagenet, Rockefeller, Romanov, Sinclair or St. Clair, Warburg, which is Del Bianco, and Windsor, which is Saxe, Cobert, Gotha. Anyway, please continue.
Yeah. So yeah, so like speaking on the whole the reptilian theory, right? So going back to the whistleblower Donald Marshall, what he was saying about royal families is that they're all essentially just lizard helpers, and by assisting these creatures, they basically became rich because a lot of these different reptilian species, they obviously are subterranean. They live very, very deep, allegedly underground, and they know where all the gold is. They know where of materials that are useful to us, but pretty much useless to them because they don't use that kind of shit. So essentially, what would happen is Donald Marshall was saying that for years and years now, these castles, a lot of these castles that you see kings and queens living in, they actually have a lot of secret passageways of roots, and some of them have tunnels leading to underground. And these creatures can come up from underground, right, and give them gold and all types of materials that they found, on a subterranean level. So in exchange for all of the gold and whatnot, they want essentially humans because they like to eat humans, the adrenochrome, and humans pretty much just taste good to them. They just like eating people. They're carnivorous, obviously evil things. So basically, what would happen over the years, kings would bring these. They would basically bring these reptilians, people, not just to eat but also to drone. And if you don't know what the droning process is, it basically comes from this 1 foot to 2 foot and a half tall creature called a vril parasite. Now this thing, if you haven't watched my video on the vril parasite, I'm just going to explain it really quick. So essentially, what it is this creature has a proboscis in the middle of its head, and the proboscis contains the consciousness, everything that the lizard is. So once in this creature's lifetime, what it can do is it can shoot the the it has basically inside of the proboscis is this little worm thing. It can shoot the little worm into a person's eye. It's wiggles in through the eye, spirals around the optic nerve, and then the person is incapacitated for an unknown amount of time. Once the person wakes up, they're dead. They are no longer themselves, they are the lizard. And this thing can basically walk around completely undetected because there's virtually no way for you to even prove that somebody has been taken over by this thing because they look just like you. The only thing is that sometimes one eye pops out more than the other one, and sometimes it can leak a little like foamy thing from the corner of the eye, and sometimes they sweat a lot, and they just another thing is that they are extremely awkward and like socially awkward. But obviously, these aren't very reliable ways to tell if somebody's been taken over by one of these things because some people are awkward. So it's you can't just assume that somebody's a fucking alien, which is pretty this is a pretty fucked up process if this is actually true. But yeah, so these kings would bring these lizards people to drone, take over their bodies. There's some shit. Sometimes they would even have these lizards drone their own family members. And another thing is, if a kingdom, right, had an issue with another kingdom, instead of do invite, you know, they would just invite the other kingdom over for maybe dinner or something, and then, maybe when they go to sleep or something, they have a group of people hold, the king of the opposing side down, maybe, or something like that, and then they drone them with the lizard drones them, and then, at that point they're completely loyal, because it's not even the person anymore. So they basically used these things as a way to get rid of problem people that are, resistant. They can make them more docile and submissive by simply just having one of these creatures drone them and take over their body. And so, yeah. What do you think, Demir? What is
Yes,
you got
I
anything to
fully
say?
agree with you. Yes, I have watched that video. These reptilians, which are coming in three types, they are basically ruling the world from the most ancient times. But not only that, humans are victims, because even the royal families who thought that they could use these reptilians to aid them in their conquest. In the end, they themselves became droned and subject to these reptilians. Not to mention that all these royal and priestly bloodlines are coming from the lineage of Cain, which is already a hybrid lineage. But if someone is thinking that the Abel was any better, Abel is basically an anagram for basically Baal. Anyway, the underground subterranean kingdom of the reptilians. It is basically from where the elites are getting all their commands and orders from, because but the reptilians are not the only uh, group. You also have the fairies, you have the Nephilim, you have the giants, you have the dwarves, you have you have the minotaurs, the centaurs, the sirens, you have fairies, you have jinns, and you have a shadow man and shadow people, which are basically manipulating and ruling the world from the behind the scenes. And there is also an interview with the Jerry Marzinski, which also says that these entities, such as jinns or shadow man, are capable of completely taking control and overpowering people, and that they are under their total control, and that they can do whatever they want. Not only that, but these reptilian entities are also uh, drawn to war, they are drawn to carnage, they are drawn to blood, and they are drawn to genocide. Uh, Example of this is when there was a war in Vietnam, and when the U.S. pilots used the red goggles, uh, which which saw into a 4D space. They had, which is basically a spiritual realm, which is hidden from us by the veil. They have only seen darkness and demons and reptilians. This was worse than the worst gothic hell, essentially. It was a very terrible and very frightful sight. And not only that, but we have to understand that these there have been many encounters with the jinn and the shadow man, and usually those are very tall male figures which are wearing a black hat, which are having red or white eyes, and which are basically usually very aggressive. Also, jinns may be attracted with people, and they may have sex. I mean, intercourse with them during their sleep, but they will usually shapeshift because their true form is terrible. Anyway, all these elites are victims themselves of these supernatural entities because the pact with the jinn is basically a death pact. Yes?
No, I didn't say anything. I think it's just a glitch.
Ah, okay. Because contract with the jinn is the essentially a death pact. Anyway, you are many people think that these elites and that these archonic forces are in some sort of contract, uh, uh, mutual contract. There is no contract. There is only a slavery because they are, after all, they can be royals, they can be papal bloodlines, they can be whatever they want. They are still slaves to the to the jinns and to the archons who have put them on those positions and gave them those resources. And those higher entities are using them to do for them all the dirty work. And once they failed in something, they have the right to do with them as they please. So once they outlive their usefulness or fail, even these highest elites will be tossed aside and replaced by the better and the more obedient puppets. Anyway, please continue.
so yeah. Another thing I wanted to talk about was Queen Elizabeth and basically how let me go up real quick. Let's read it from here. On February 25th, 2013, six international judges found Queen Elizabeth and her husband, Prince Philip, guilty in the disappearance of 10 native children from the Catholic run Kamloops residential school in British Columbia. Um, the children essentially left for a picnic with the royal couple on October 10th, 1964, and their grieving parents haven't seen them since, or at least at the time. They never saw them after that point. So the order to arrest the queen was issued by the International Common Law Court of Justice in Brussels after nearly a year of, you know, investigation. Um, this prosecution concerned 50,000 missing Native Canadian children and included a 1964 kidnapping case that implicated the Queen. So, um, another thing is that basically, Donald Marshall explained that years ago, Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip told him about how they would visit native orphanages in Western Canada and kill kids for sport. They described how they would strangle the children and watch them die. Philip even described how he would tie a boy up and crush his testicles in one hand while choking the boy to death with the other. Marshall realizes that this sounds unbelievable. Like how could somebody do that to children? But Marshall replies that he doesn't know why they did this, only that they said they target native children because they receive less attention when they go missing. So Marshall maintains that the that Illuminati members are not above the law and cannot be allowed to get away with murder. He calls for the immediate justice for the tragic loss of so many innocent young lives. So, what do you have any input on that?
Yes, absolutely. Such things did happen. However, I think that this Donald Marshall is also controlled opposition because if he was a true opposition, he wouldn't be alive with this type of knowledge that he has, and where he supposedly went, he should have been dead a long time ago. So he's probably a controlled whistleblower. Anyway, all these royal
Right, but
families.
I just
Yes,
wanted to say the thing is, right, the reason Donald says, yeah, the reason as to why he is still alive, right, despite all of saying all of this, and they haven't killed him with an aneurysm or a heart attack via, the microchip with the clone. He says that basically he's basically a song creator, right? So he has this ability. It's like an unexplained ability to just come up like write songs off the top of his head. A lot of the celebrities that you see that made songs, they don't those songs don't belong to them. What happens is, at night when they go to sleep and they enter the REM sleep cycle, and their consciousness gets transferred into a clone in the underground bases. They essentially tortured Donald, is what he said, mercilessly in order to get like a song out of him. So that's basically why he's still alive. It's only because he's made like thousands upon thousands of songs for all of these celebrities by force, and really all he can do is just you know be a whistleblower. And even he said that they won't they would they he said that the reason as to why they don't kill him is because the elite basically know that nobody's going to believe him. But although it is a possibility that he can be controlled opposition, although I don't think he is. But obviously you can never really know with these people. So yeah, I mean, I know people like fucking what's his name, Alex Jones. um what's the other guy, the dude who talks about the
David
shape
Icke.
shifting? David Icke, David Wilcock. All of them are controlled oppositions. um yeah, you can also somebody also says it right here. One thing about David well, it's Donald Marshall, that seems legit is that he's dead. Is his dead clone photo as the album cover of Megadeth? Yeah, his face is on the Megadeth album cover, or at least it looks extremely like him. So I don't know if you want to search that up, but yeah, you can go ahead.
Yes, I just want to continue that in either way, either through torture or either to a willing compliance, they he definitely serves them in some purpose. So this is why he's still alive. Otherwise, he wouldn't be. Uh,
Yeah,
r- Rejected Rebel 2 just said, I heard the reptilians have technology that bring back the souls back to this torture chamber. Absolutely. I would say that the pyramids are basically making a forescreen in this world, so that any soul which tries to go to the North Pole, because in the North Pole uh, there is basically an exit portal from this realm, and these Arconian reptilians have used their advanced technology to put the forescreens to deflect any soul back into this false realm. And even if some soul manages to pass that, it'll just get ragdolled and hurled either back into this hell realm, or into or even in the even worse hell realm, which could be in a possibility of suicide, because archons may, uh, not only may, but probably, I mean, I just want to say that all these people who kill themselves, I have absolute empathy and compassion for them, because this is a hell realm. But I think that they have uh, tragically screwed themselves, because their souls will be intercepted by these soldiers of the celestial tyrant, and they will just get hurled back to the earth. That's it. There is no escaping here. This is entire realm is of the complete and pure evil. Also, many people have to understand that all these ruling classes are basically chosenite small hat tribes. And also there is also a connection with the Hyksos. Hyksos were basically a people which were coming from Asia, and which were basically a multi-ethnic conquerors from the east, which have conquered Egypt. And this is basically a story of Joseph and Abraham and all these supposedly Chosenite dynasties. They were all reptilian Hexosians. And what is even worse with these Hexosians is that they were probably closely related not only with Khazars, but with various other Mongolic, Indo-European, Turkic conquerors and tribes, which had a carnivore diet, which gave them a huge advantage over the farming nations, which were the agricultural uh, nations, which were eating seeds and grains. And since you noticed that the reptilians are carnivores, I mean, they know what's good, so they were probably genetically related also with the reptilians. But the problem is with the Hexosians that they were extremely warlike people, and they are also connected with the Sea people, and the Sea people and the Chosenite tribes are basically uh, actually the Chosenite tribe. The small hats are by far the most responsible for the massive collapse and the extinction during during the Bronze Age period. We saw a further depopulation of humans and a tighter control of the reptilians and the underground scum over us. Why? Because the tribe used the military might of the Sea people in order to massacre countless nations, but they were defeated by Egypt two times, and when they failed to defeat Egypt, then these supposed natural catastrophes, which are not natural, they're all artificial, caused by the advanced technology, happened all over the world, causing an end of the Bronze Age and a worldwide cataclysm in which the vast majority of humanity actually died, while the reptilians and Nephilim and everyone else took an even tighter grip, heading into an Iron Age and every other age. What we want, I mean, what I want to say is this: is that basically all these ideologies, all these religions, all these systems have been set up by the reptilians because uh, because we are basically uh, how should I say it? Anyway, uh, Rejected Rebel 2 says that I was thinking humans can be a biological weapon that were injected into a Titan Gaia. We could be inside her body, infected, cause we are like parasites. Absolutely, yes. The human race is a disease upon this world, and there are many sources which are saying that the humans were actually created by the archons to be slaves for gold mining purposes. But actually, if you go deeper into it, uh, uh, gold is anu, which is basically a mining our auras or our spiritual energy, which is harvested and absorbed by the archons and the demiurge, which is the lord of the archons, to grow even and far stronger. What I want to say is that that the Bronze Age collapse was basically an artificial worldwide collapse heading into an iron, which basically started an Iron Age and everything else. But this religions and politics and all these systems are using as a luge farm, which is basically a luge farm, which is producing the luge, which is the energy for these archons and reptilians and the demiurge, femiurge, to feed off of us and to grow even more powerful, and we are and even stronger. Uh, so humans are basically living into a huge zoo, which are used to generate luge farm through all the negative emotions such as stress, anger, murder, hate, violence, all this negativity is feeding the archons this energy, and with it, they are ruling the entire world. Uh, this is a hell realm. Th- this is a prison, and we are all prisoners. Of course, none of this. I repeat, none of this is our fault. It is all the. It is also it is, I mean, none of this is our fault. All fault is going to the archons and through the demiurge. Anyway, please continue.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out the because you were talking about how the theory of how we were created by the archons. And I just want to point out the similarity between, like, the archons and the Anunnaki in that aspect, because I don't know if anybody's ever looked into it, but in the Anunnaki theory, right? The Anunnaki actually created us to be a slave race to mine gold. Like pretty much each way that you look at it, um, in a creationist point of view, we kind of put here for no fucking reason, honestly. Like, um,
Slaves.
yeah, yeah, slaves, yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to, yeah, yeah, put. You could go ahead if you want, but I was just trying to point out the,
Okay.
the
I think that
Anunnaki and the
I thought that you wanted
Archon.
uh, okay. So I just want to say that these many people are thinking that Jesus is coming to save them. This is retardation because Jesus is the demiurge. Jesus is Saklas. Jesus is Nebro. Jesus is Yolda Bayoth, Lilith, Saklas, Jupiter, Jupiter Zeus, Saturn, Kronos, Venus, Satan, Samael, uh, Je- Jehovah. This is all that that is all demiurge, along with the seven spheres, planetary spheres, and that is all demiurge. But we have to work on our own Christ consciousness, Krishna, Osiris, Odin, uh, to grow a perfected man, which will at least try to fight and combat the archons and try to escape this luch farm that is upon us. Anyway, we have to always remember that many people are saying that there are various techniques for escaping this realm, such as semen retention. Some people say carnivore diet, some people say vegan diet, cold showers, fasting, moon gazing, sun gazing, uh, looking at the moon, looking at the sun, barking at the moon, urine therapy, so on and so forth. There are many people and many methods which are also plant medicine, which can be helpful in combating archons. But many people say that this world is corrupted, this world is not functioning. I would say that this world is evil, and it's functioning perfectly correct, because this world is evil, and it was created by an evil entity. I would say omnimalevolent entity, and as a result, we have all this evil, suffering, and pain and death in the world. As soon as beings eat other beings to survive, as soon as a being's eat plants to survive, as soon as someone consumes anything else to survive, this is a hell realm. And I think that those people who don't see this are blind. Anyway, I would use this opportunity to recommend the channel called Sanity Machine, Sanity Machine channel, and Atlas Gunter channel, as well as Codename Love One channels are great channels, and I would use this in opportunity to recommend their channels, because those are excellent channels, and those people have a vast array of knowledge into them. Anyway, I just want to say that many people think that all of their thoughts are their thoughts. They don't understand that they are all ruled by the archons and by the subterranean beings which are using advanced technology and their powers to control and manipulate our thoughts. You have a famous psychiatrist, which is a Jerry Marzinski, which talked about that phenomena. And what is there more to say? I mean, you also have a disconnection that all these royal families started all the world wars. These families started all the world revolutions. These families basically started. They're leading all the mafia. They're leading all the crimes. They're behind the war on terror. They're behind the the future Eurasian superstate, and the oligarchy is basically the cancer in human history, and the revolution is basically a chosenite business, and the chosenite conspiracy is basically a British imperialism and any kind of imperialism. Anyway, please continue.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much that's I got everything I wanted to say. I don't know if nobody from the chat wanted to join and say anything. I mean, I'm okay to end it here unless you have more to say. But I'm good for now.
Do we have any more questions from the audience?
Yeah. You can see this one. Oh, like one right here. We can just go through. Yeah, we can just go through if you want.
Okay, we can, one by one.
Yeah.
Reject Rebel 2, but if we have a soul, why didn't the soul did something about all this bullshit? Because entire creation is evil, and because we are completely inferior to them in every aspect. I mean, a New Age teaching about, I mean, a New Age teaching that we are gods and infinite souls being. I mean, if we are gods and infinite source being, then why does a single human being is effortlessly overpowered by a single shadow man? Someone can say that they aren't enlightened, but even if you are enlightened, someone had to enlighten you, which still makes you inferior to that entity. I mean, we are. This is a slave system, and we are living into this slave system under their control. Nothing. I
Yeah.
mean,
I was gonna say. I was just gonna say that. Yeah, and if we were created by these things and they're pretty much using us as slaves, I mean, obviously, um, they're only gonna give us enough power or ability to obviously not be able to resist them. Like
yes,
so, if it's in the
yes.
context of us being created by evil extra dimensional beings, they're not going to give us abilities so that way we can overpower them. They're just going to make us kind of like controllable puppets, really. So we really can't do shit about it, which is kind of fucked up. But yeah, man. Um,
Is it possible to destroy all this morbid bullshit? I would say that it could be possible if you are an extremely powerful spiritual being, and if you are having an armies of a- of, a- of benevolent, extremely powerful spiritual beings. Since this is a realm of evil, and since uh, this is ruled by evil force, and no one is doing anything about it, nor nor inside this realm, no outside this realm. I would say that either everyone is evil, or the good fort, or a good part is completely powerless.
yeah. Um, and thoughts on materialism, elites push it a lot. Yeah, I think if you're talking about materialism in terms of like the rat race and owning things. I think the elite basically pushed that shit so they could keep people in the involved and participating in the rat race, because as long it's kind of like everything else. As long as people don't understand that the entire world is a stage, and the world leaders are the actors and clowns that are performing on the stage, nobody does anything about the bullshit that's going on. No, if nobody knows that something is happening, then who's going to do anything to stop it? Nobody, because nobody even knows that anything is going on, and that's actually a smart thing for them to do, because you know to make people a slave, right? You don't have to chain them up to a wall and deprive them of food and make them work and do all this. You really don't even have to do that, because if you do that, then they're going to know they're a slave, which is going to trigger them to eventually start some kind of revolution or uprising. But if you give people the illusion that they are free, then um, they will never resist, because they don't even know that they're slaves, and that's literally what we see going on here, in today's world. What do you think about that, Mr.
Yes, I
Taylor?
would fully agree with you on that. But they are not only pushing materialism and maximalism; they're also pushing a minimalist agenda through the Agenda 2030, which is basically saying you shall be happy and you shall not own anything. They're also pushing both the natalist and they're also pushing a pro-natalist and anti-natalist side. They're all pushing a vegan and carnivore diets. They're all pushing a feminism and MGTOW. Why? Because it is all a divide and conquer strategy. For example, pronatalism as the doctrine ensures the survival of a nation, but at what cost? You are bringing your child into a hell. Antinatalism, however, prevents your child from bringing it into a hell realm. However, at the same time, your nation and your state is going to disappear and replaced by other nation. So so when you look at it, everything is evil. And I just want to say that when you actually read the Bible or Quran or everything else, especially the book of Job, Satan is actually an agent, a puppet, a slave, a controlled opposition of God, because every evil that Satan did on Job, such as killing his family, killing his livestock, destroying his property, he only did that on God's command. So who is the ultimate evil culprit here? God. It's God. So we really don't have much. Actually, we don't have any freedom. I mean, this is a predetermined slave circus. Anyway, next question.
All right.
Only truth. Do
Do
you
you?
think life is a TV show?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of think it is. If we're talking about in the context of us being created by a malevolent, extra dimensional being, yeah, I think it is. Because if you look at the Bible, right, a lot of what you really got to ask yourself, right? All of the bullshit that the characters in the Bible go through, what is the point in them going through that? It's for the sake of a story. So this entity can basically watch you suffer. A lot of these people will say, people that go through bullshit will be like, "Oh, uh, I know I'm suffering right now, but God has a plan. A plan to do what? Keep fucking you over? Like, makes no fucking sense. He has no plan for you. His only plan is to sit on his throne and keep watching trials and tribulations. I mean, fucking connection, man.
Your audio is bad, man.
Is it better now?
Yes.
Is it better now? Okay, good. So I was just saying this thing is basically an observer, and I don't believe it. I just don't believe it cares about anything really. You're basically existence is basically a sandbox for this shit, for this being. It's a sandbox, and it just watches you um just keep getting fucked up. It does this thing. There's no way this thing cares about anything really. Yeah, I think it just created everything for its own entertainment, really. But yeah,
If I may add,
what do you
if
could
I
go
may
with
add,
your
I completely agree with you. I think that we are living in a gulag of a celestial Stalin. I think this is all rigged, predetermined stage show, nothing else. Uh, Life is shit, life is evil, life is suffering, life is pain, and death is basically an imposition, which is basically a liberation only to be brought here back in this shit. I mean, this is horror. This is horrible. This is a world of absolute malevolence. I would say that life is a rigged, staged, predetermined curse and shit, uh, where you are completely controlled by a celestial Stalin in a gulag. Anyway, next question.
All right, so yep, there you go. This is about divided, rejected rebel number two. Yep, there you go. Divide and conquer. They turn the slaves against each other so they can fight each other instead of fighting the elites. Yeah, yeah, that's. I think it's very obvious that that's what they do because that's why I don't vote nor do I care, especially after all the stuff that we talked about with the elite bloodlines. Especially when you know that the vast majority of these people are literally related to each other. Um, I mean, there's no point even really focusing on politics because politics is just childish as fuck. I mean, it's pretty obvious that what they're doing is dividing people so that way they can focus on name calling each other and 'cause let's be serious for a second. When I see people talking about politics, right? I see more people that are into politics clowning each other for their political positions rather than focusing on what the actual problem is. All I mean, just take a look at all the nicknames they have for each other. What? Um Cuckservative, um libtard, liberal crybaby. Like,
Trump
what
Tower.
are you really doing? Yeah, exactly. What are you really doing? You're not doing it. You're not solving any of the problems. This is what they want because the elite know that obviously the numbers are stacked against them. If we really wanted to, we could all band together and fuck them up. But most people are too fucking retarded to see this shit, and they would rather sit down and keep twiddling their thumbs and playing with themselves in the corner, and then call anybody who tries to tell them the truth a goddamn conspiracy theorist, even though it's happening right in front of your face. There is no conspiracy. Like a lot of people like to um, excuse the fact that they're a fucking idiot by saying, "Oh, it's just a conspiracy." There is no conspiracy, dude. This is what politics are. It's just people arguing with each other and nothing gets solved. I mean, I don't know how people haven't realized by now that regardless of whoever becomes the president, every year is still shit. It's the same fuck shit over and over and over. So at this rate, who cares who the president is, man? Just let it go. It's over. Throw in the towel.
If I may add, even 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 if you even if you take down the entire system, all the royal families, all the papal bloodlines, all the secret societies, all entire system of governments, of banks, of military, police, everything, world is still evil. Animals are still eating each other. There is a disasters all over the world. People will still die. People will still grow hungry. People
Yeah,
will still grow thirsty. People will still kill each other. Animals will still kill each other. Uh, uh, Life forms are going to devour each other to survive. What does that tell you about this reality? It's an evil fucking reality. And those who doesn't understand it, I mean, they're fucking idiots. If they can't see that, they're idiots. Anyway, next question.
Just trying to look through because there's a lot of goddamn comments. Oh yeah, if you wanted to read that one, you can.
Reject the rebel too. Exactly, all of this is true. These reptilians are real, absolutely. Real politics are a scam. No, it's all rigged. We don't elect a president. Presidents are selected by the Bilderbergers. Presidents are selected by the royal bloodlines. The more I would say that all candidates for president have a royal blood, which is basically reptilian blood. But the election is won by a candidate who has the most reptilian blood and who has the purest reptilian blood. This is who wins the election. Hey, brother, perpetual pleasurelist is here. Excellent.
Hey, good to see you guys, or hear from
Hey,
you rather.
you too.
What's going on, man?
How's it going, dudes?
What's going on?
It's going great.
So where are we at in the conversation? I unfortunately I missed the first hour or so. So
basically the basis what we were talking about in the beginning was royal bloodlines, basically. You know, like secret society connections, like how the vast majority of people that were ruling back then, they're basically still ruling now. And the only difference is that back then they were called kings, queens, princes, princesses, and now they're called celebrities and politicians. And some of the examples that I gave was, you know, basically how, you know, Beyonce, she has royal blood. Angelina Jolie has royal blood. Brad Pitt has royal blood. Sigourney Weaver has royal blood. Tom Hanks, the entire Bush family, a lot of politicians have royal blood. And essentially, me and Demiurge Killer were just talking about how a lot of this stuff is, you know, it's already predetermined. It's selected based off of, you know, royal bloodline. And, you know, the whole thing is just evil as shit. But yeah.
Well, that's interesting. And, you know, is it okay if I say a few things on this, guys? I think the audience will find this very helpful. I know we've talked about this topic a lot before, but especially this year, more than every other year in my life, this realization of what exactly it is that these so-called elites believe, what they've been doing, and why has become ever more clear. Because a lot of times we hear people talking about the general topics of, okay, it's evil, what the fuck is this? But it actually makes very vivid sense to me, as dark and as horrifying it is why they're doing what they're doing. So what I've come to understand is that whoever specifically is in fact one of these elites, obviously we all are familiar with all the different hypotheses, etc., all the claims of who's who and whatnot. So the point being is that it's quite obvious to me these individuals, whoever is in fact doing this, like with the child sacrifices and the sex rings and the sex trafficking and all this other horrific shit that goes on, plus the situation of the world, the enslavement to money, and just the horrors that permeate this reality and are perpetuated on purpose in a very obvious way. They know very well that the entity or the source of reality is almost an entirely omni-malevolent thing. So they're aware that what you would term God in the uppercase G sense is in fact an almost entirely malevolent thing that is completely evil. And they're knowingly, consciously worshiping that thing at the root of reality, which is this omni-malevolent entity, being, as Demiurge Killer often says. The only reason I say almost entirely malevolent is because obviously we have at least the illusion of pleasure that exists. But basically, in principle, we're dealing with something that is basically more or less entirely malevolent, that being the main point. And I think they know exactly that that's the reality. And I think they're laughing their asses off, or just doing it because they feel that's what they need to do, not necessarily laughing about it, but just horrified at the reality that every single day, think about this, guys, and everybody listening, you'll notice that every single thing you do every day is either an act of you torturing another being or other beings, or torturing yourself. Always. Single thing you do. If you pay attention enough and understand what's actually happening in the world, every breath you take, everything you drink, everything you think, everything you do, every step you take, is either harming or tormenting another sentient form, or is harming and tormenting yourself, or both. And it has zero to do with what your intentions are, or the fact that you don't intend for that to happen. In fact, that is part of the sick joke. The fact that you're forced into a situation, and all of us are, of life where everything you do is an act of torture of another being or yourself. So asceticism and the practice of self-regulation is a micro-torture to the individual person's self instead of torturing someone else. So this is why you see in Gnosticism and historical practices, which are anti, or at least making an attempt to be against the elite corruption of the world, and all the stuff that most people who have common sense are opposed to. They emphasize this asceticism quite often in these texts because they also understand that if you're not torturing others, you're required to torture yourself. So basically everything is forced to be this continual act of sacrifice. So what the elites do instead of micro-torturing themselves, what they do is they torture others instead. So therefore, that fuels the sadism and the evil and the horror of this entity at the root of reality that the religions call God, but falsely believe is good and everything else. So they're knowingly tormenting others because they know that the torture of others consciously, intentionally, as an act of worship to the malevolent being at the core of reality is what ensures they have a better situation monetarily, power-wise, influence-wise, etc. And they know that is how reality operates. And everybody, the rest of us, who are these well-intentioned people, we're just always pissed off, angry, squabbling with each other, yelling at each other, shouting about our hypotheses and theories. All the while, none of us are engaged in actively tormenting others. And we're instead torturing ourselves with what? Asceticism, self-regulation, regulation of our diet, regulation of our lives. It's just various micro-tortures of our mind, of our emotions, of our body. That's what regulation is. So we're regulating ourselves, so we're torturing ourselves. What they're doing is torturing others instead of torturing themselves. That's literally reality explained fully. Like this realm, and I would hypothesize, as Demiurge Killer suggests, every single other realm, I feel is connected to the torment of other sentiences in other realms. So even the states that are paradise states, that people would call heavenly states, those can only exist because there's other beings in other realms being tormented to fuel the pleasure of those beings in those realms. So I don't even see that these pleasure realms are even realms of places where any actual genuine good exists. I see it that those things only can exist sadistically and fucking horrifically because other beings in other realms are being tortured as fuel for those pleasure realms. So this is the reality that I've come to understand is in fact the case, and why nothing is ever solved. No matter how well-intentioned we are, no matter what we try to achieve, nothing's ever solved, and the evil continues on and will continue on. And you'll notice people who think they're great and amazing and the well-intentioned people, they are also doing fucked up shit all the time against their will or according to their will, and they're just thinking they're these set apart, you know, nice little goody two-shoes from everybody else, these spiritual Neo versus the Matrix people or whatever. But no, they're just as much of shitheads as everybody else is. They're just not willing to admit it or acknowledge it. And so Demiurge Killer and you yourself, Animosity, myself, and very few people in the world are people who are willing to acknowledge the fact of what the fuck this is. It's like, I don't hold to any more of these fantasies anymore, guys. This idea of like, okay, after this, there's some fantasy ideal world. Obviously, that's what we want, but I realize the only way to fucking have that is exactly what the elites have realized. And that's exactly why this has been going on. They understand that the only way to attain that state or to maintain that state is to actively, knowingly engage in the sacrifice of others for your own gain. So, like, if you do anything else, it's just some variation of torturing yourself. And if you have the eyes to see it, you see it. It's like, you know, so I think that really is what people need to understand, especially people in the truther fold, that this is what's going on. People need to get rid of these fucking escape narratives and all these like ideas that once we leave here, we're just going to be escaped forever. No, it's going to be a forever fucking thing of having to continually, for the rest of eternity, oppose
Yes.
these other variations of evil
Yes.
forever. It's never going to stop. Like, because reality is at the core evil, from what I can understand, like sadistically fucking vile. So instead of the core of reality being this good, benevolent pleasure source of love and everything, no, it's the exact fucking opposite. Pleasure and love and all this other type of stuff is the mutation from that. It exists in spite of it. And people could say because of it, basically as a game, but it's not. You could even say that pleasure wasn't meant to exist, honestly. You know, and even though it does exist, but it's a situation where people have these. I think the entity at the root of reality is laughing its ass off, dangling these carrots in front of everybody's psychologies, making them believe that there's this wonderful paradise state after death, when in fact it's just going to be another state that it throws them into and sets them up for and toys with them in, no matter what they believe or think or desire or want, or how good they behave or think they are or whatever. So, and I could give many examples confirming this firsthand as what's going on. And the biggest example I would give is in my own life, the degree that I've realized this and started becoming willing to engage in tormenting others to various degrees, as much as it pisses me the fuck off to have that psychology, my life is actually fucking improved. When I put a middle finger up to others in many ways, psychologically and otherwise, and embraced various degrees of sadism in myself, to that degree, my life, the pleasure therein, has actually improved. And it pissed me off for fucking years, and it's only the last couple months that I'm actually basically getting into the groove of, well, this is fucking what reality is, and it's disgusting. And it's like, okay, so I can either be disgusted by it, or I can basically do what the elites do, and that's what I've chosen to do. So you can basically say that I am embracing the psychology of the elites because I realize that that is exactly how you obtain pleasure, power, position, what you want, making shit happen. Doing the goody two-shoes thing, being a nice, loving person, yes, always fucks you over, and I've had this experience my whole goddamn life. It does not solve shit. So, and it's basically what I want people to understand is that this concept of apotheosis or attaining godhood or demonhood, it comes by the fact that you can bypass your disgust with the fact that that is reality. You can bypass your own basically moral hindrances and shit like this. And so the Bohemian Grove ritual, where they do the dull care thing, they say that be gone dull care. They're talking about getting rid of all of these things that cause you to be an extremely extra empathic person, to go out of your way to torture yourself instead of torture others. That's what they're talking about. In other words, only by embracing your evil and the variation thereof you decide to embrace can you ever obtain any position of what you actually desire to achieve, ever. And this is exactly what's happening even within the world of religion, where people are thinking they're doing good acts. If you pay attention to what they're actually doing, it's just a specific type of evil act that they're engaging in, is why their church or religion or organization is successful. They're fucking somebody up somewhere else in order to have that. There's no question of anything being gained in this world unless you're fucking someone else over somewhere, somehow, in some way. It's a requirement of reality itself, and it's disgusting, and it's fucked up. And I despise it, but basically the psychology is, unless and until everybody understands that that's how you actually get beyond this fucked up realm, you embrace some degree of demonism in yourself, then they're just going to remain stuck in these cycles. Because I found that this malevolent fucking thing favors, sadistically, you realizing that you have to be evil, and then that's what you are, and then it blesses you with power, influence, success, happiness, pleasure. And it's a very fucking sadistic, because it's like it only grants you that freedom from the shit show if you actually align with it to some extent, right? And folks, it's the darkest fucking thing ever. I know it is, but if there were any other reality, believe me, I would prefer that, but that's just not the fucking case. I'm all for reality being different than this, but at this point, I'm completely I've gotten rid of any type of fingers crossed or like hopium, copium, whatever, that there's going to be some paradise lovey-dovey playland after this state. As much as I would love that, it's something I have to forcefully ensure exists by force. It's not just going to be there. I have to forcefully stomp my foot down and be like, I'm going to, for fuck's sake, make that be the world I experience, and fuck all to anything that gets in my way. That's the only way you can manifest those types of states. Any type of, let me just, be a nice person and end up in this happy place after death, bullshit. It doesn't work that way. And it's very obvious it doesn't work that way. So, anyway, sorry for rambling on for so long. I hope to hear you guys.
It's fine. It's fine.
No, it's excellent.
Yeah. I was just going to say one thing, right? So, Rejected Rebel number 2 says, but not all people can be evil. If one of us try to be evil, it never works. So, in relation to what, I just call you anti-natalist or Gnostic anti-natalist. So, in relation to what you were saying about...
You can call me Pee-Pee, actually. I did that on purpose for people to laugh about it. So call me Pee-Pee as an acronym.
Okay, so yeah.
Just say Pee-Pee, yeah.
Yeah. So in relation to what Pee-Pee was saying about embracing the psychology of, the elites and, embracing that, everybody's basically evil and not being the whole goody two-shoes thing. And I'm not trying to be funny when I say this, but I'm just going to try to reword at least, because I agree completely what he was saying about that. Now, the thing that you need to understand, right? It's not that you have to be downright evil and go around doing like completely abominable things. Essentially, and I'm not trying to be funny or anything. Everybody has been indoctrinated to have what is called a bitch ass nigga within them. Now, what this bitch ass nigga is responsible for doing is keeping you at your full potential. What this bitch ass nigga is responsible for doing is making it so that you care how others perceive you. You care about validation from others, and you care about what other people think. Once you kill this bitchness within yourself and you just embrace the fact that you cannot be a goody two shoes and nothing really matters, and you just look out for you instead of worrying about everybody else, because really at the end of the day, being a nice guy or a good person, or at least what society standardizes as a good person, it never helps you. Nothing comes from being a good person. I'm sorry.
Yes.
It just doesn't.
Yes.
You have to kill. You literally have to murder the bitch ass nigga within you. Once you do that, you will get a way more coherent level of thinking, and that's just my opinion. Because honestly, I don't care about being a good person. Honestly, I just don't. I mean, I have honor, and there's just certain things that are not in my character to do. But generally, I don't give a fuck about being a good person. Honestly, man, because that's just not how this world operates.
We realize it's a game. We're being toyed with, and so I'm sorry to interrupt, Demiurge, but basically, me and Demiurge and you, we've realized that this whole goody two shoes game is us being toyed with. So the way to go about evil is it has to be done in secret, and it has to be done very strategically, which is exactly what the elites do. If you're just some petty criminal like out in the open, that's people fucking with themselves and self-tormenting. Because if someone does something to where it's going to cause harm to themselves, also, number one, they're not being strategic and they're not doing it in secret. So this principle of the secret, the mystery religion, the mystery concept is inherent in effectively engaging in the variation of evil you want to. And they know this also very well, the elites. So the secrecy is the principle there, and it's a bunch of hypocrisy, it's bullshittery, it's scheming, it's conniving. That's how reality works. So Demiurge Killer, on to you, brother.
Thank you very much, Perpetual President. I completely agree with you. And I would like to give you a standing ovation, brother, standing ovation. It was an excellent speech. I just want to say that good person in any reality is a fool. Good person is a fool. Merciful person is an idiot. Merciful person is going to give merciful and good person, and a beta is going to get ragdolled, is going to get cheated on, is going to get is going to get murdered, is going to get robbed, it's going to get destroy at every opportunity. Only the person who cares about himself and himself only, uh, and looks out for himself, will go further. You just have to kill that that compass, this lie of morals in you, and just go to you, you just have to go and grab it. You just have to take care for yourself and look for your own interest at every cost and at every possible price, and do whatever it takes in your interest, and only then you will succeed. Otherwise, if you care for others, you are never going to succeed. Number one. Number two, your goal is going to be betrayed, uh, uh, hated, attacked, and so on and so forth. Number three, those who look out for themselves, the demiurge also looks out for them. And all those who are saying that they are going to wage the war against the archons and the demiurge, I mean, these people are idiots. They are all talk, no action. When shit hits the fan, and when a single jinn or a single shadow man attacks them during their sleep, they are crying for the demiurge, Jesus, to save them. And when they say, Jesus, Jesus, save me, and when the demiurge saves them, of course, the demiurge send your attacker in the first place to teach you a lesson in order to submit to the omni-malevolent celestial Stalin, or otherwise you are going to get even worse. And now that you have submitted, you are back kissing the ass, licking the feet, sucking the dick, licking the pussy of a omni-malevolent celestial Stalin. And all these God worshippers, they are only worshiping God because of power, because of wealth, and because of influence, and because they want to be a powerful bosses on the other world, and because they want to attain power in this world and in the next world, and for no other reason. There is no love in them, there is no respect in them. They only love and respect power. Anyway, please continue.
Yeah, that's a great point. So I want to give people a direct example in my own life so that people understand exactly what we're saying. Because, of course, you always have idiots in the comments. Now, hopefully the people listening are not idiots and go on this big spiel, oh, so you're just saying we should all be a bunch of criminals and just kill people. Come on, you fucking idiot. Don't comment that bullshit. You know that's not what we're talking about. However, if you decide to be that kind of shithead evil and you do that, then that's up to you and you're going to face the fucking consequences. But I, myself, am going to engage in a different variation than that. The variation I engage in is I'm going to ensure myself a maximal number of gorgeous women that I can thunk the booties of for as long as possible for the rest of eternity. And I'm going to ensure a realm where that is perpetuated by myself, guaranteed for certain. Now you'll have millions and billions of people throughout the world saying, "Oh, you're such a shit. That's so fucked up. That's so gross. What the fuck's wrong with you?" Exactly. It's evil. That's the type of evil I'm engaging in. So fuck off if you're going to interfere with me engaging in that, because that's what I'm going to be doing. So if you're going to try to get into my containment bubble and stop me from having that experience for the rest of existence, then you're in my way, and I'm going to get you out of my way in my own way, right? Now, that varies based on person to person. I'm not going to go around killing people or harming them because I see that that would affect me. That would be a form of torturing myself. That's why. Because I'm not interested in spending time in prison or in having some fucked up thing happen within my psychology where I feel bad and traumatized for the others I harmed in that particular way, because it's not effective. Now, there's plenty of people throughout the world who do that, who are criminals, and they do gain a one-up on others because of being criminals, and the system favors them, in fact, for doing so. I'm not that type, though. So whoever you are, and whatever type of evil you decide to engage in, it's important that you recognize what it is that you're doing, and that you don't try to maintain this narrative that, okay, there's this good shining light thing over here, And then on this other side, there's this dark evil forces stuff over here that we're competing with. No, no, no. You've got to be an honest being and understand what the fuck you are and what you're actually fucking engaging in. And only once you do that can you actually decide which evil you're going to actually engage in. Now, here's the thing. The people who end up committing suicide, getting hyper depressed, and having all these issues, who do that in spite of not having any chronic physical problems or pain problems or anything else, where it's just almost exclusively mental and emotional trauma that they're facing, either self-induced or induced by others. Well, in those cases, what they're doing is they're choosing to self-torture instead of torture others. They're deciding to self-torture. And them killing their body is a variation of self-torture, is what it is. So that's what they're deciding to do. I don't decide to do that. And that is not my psychological state, but many do. But you need to understand what they're doing. So destroying their own body, killing themselves prematurely, faster than later, sooner than later, whatever their hope or desire may be for an after-death state, is the type of evil they're engaging in. They are killing a body, which is theirs. They're destroying a body, which is theirs. They're sacrificing a body, which is theirs. Theirs in quotation marks, obviously, contextually, because of course we're just all forced into this shit show against our will anyway. So none of it is actually ours at the end of the day, but you understand my point. So basically, when people get the balls to basically be like, okay, this is what I'm going to fucking determine for my existence, for my life, and I'm going to make this motherfucking happen, right? You have to get to that psychology, because you're going to face hundreds of thousands, millions of people, if you're well-known or famous, or at least tens to hundreds of people who oppose you, who are against what you're trying to do, who are interfering with you, talking a bunch of shit all the time. And this is going to happen in every goddamned case, no matter what it is you're wanting to do, no matter how good it is, no matter how well-intentioned, etc. You're going to have a huge number of shitheads always in your fucking way, okay? And so you just have to stomp your foot down and be like, all these motherfuckers, I'm just going to get them out of my way. And you can decide how to get them out of your way. There's various means to do that. There's criminal methods that criminals choose to do. You know, those are obvious. There's other methods which are more subversive and secretive. There's other methods where you just stop contacting them and try to ignore them and don't physically do anything to them. There's various means and methods, but the point is, whichever method you decide to have them out of your sphere of influence or experience, that's the method you're deciding on. But you have to get past the psychology of trying to be this good person who does the best for everybody, because if that's what your mode is, you're already going to be doing that anyway. You know what your psychology is. But the point is, other beings will not recognize, and they'll be perpetually incapable of recognizing your intentions, how good of an intention it is. And because they're not able to recognize that, your good intentions are going to be processed by them as harmful to them, no matter how good they are. And therefore, what you're doing is factually evil in that case also. Because if the other sentients can't process what you're doing as good or benevolent to them, then it's not actually benevolent to them, because it has to be obvious to them. But it won't be obvious, okay? So these are the little minutiae that you need to understand as a being in this world, how to go forward in your life, and how to achieve stuff. And in fact, my opinion is this on this matter. I think this would help a lot. The entire conspiracy, soul trap world of content online, and everybody who creates this type of content or talks about it, we would be very much better off if we actually did something very fucking similar to what these so-called elites are doing, and got on board and be like, okay, we're going to together work as a team to engage in this particular kind of evil. We know it's fucking evil, but we're going to do exactly goddamn what they're doing in a different way, so therefore we can actually finally fucking compete with the pieces of shit. Until then, we're not going to be able to fucking compete with any of them in terms of getting a one-up on them. And so this is what I'm saying. This whole idea of trying to go the good route or the Neo versus the Matrix route to overcome this evil cabal, that ain't going to fucking work. You have to be your own variation of evil that terrifies the fuck out of them also. Being this being of light, lovey-dovey thing, that ain't going to fucking do squat to actually change this horrific situation we're in the world right now. It ain't going to do jack shit. It might make you feel better about yourself. Oh, my intentions are good. Okay, whoop-de-doo. Pat yourself on the back. You have good intentions, as do we all. Well done. It's like, okay, so, but this is the problem. What do the elites do? They ensure that we all keep squabbling over these fucking minutia, pointless ass fucking little disagreements on, okay, who's actually controlling the world? Who's actually the one in power? Who gives half a shit? Like the actual individual, the point is the entire fucking system of reality itself favors those kinds of shitheads. And it's going to remain that way. So you have to be the bigger shithead against the fucking shitheads that already exist to become yourself the fucking elite. And if you don't do that, you're just going to remain squabbling with the little peons down below, every one of us thinking we're Neo versus the fucking Matrix, and every one of us remaining fucking trapped under the thumb of elites and shit. So it's like, until you become a fucking elite yourself or make a point to be one of those things, like a demonic entity or whatever, and you actually consciously cultivate the psychology of a demonic being, you're not going to do jack squat to overcome any of this shit. And that's, I've come to this conclusion after years, decades worth of trying every other means, thought process, philosophy, ideology, good intentions, good works, all sorts of shit. There's been a lot of stuff I've done. And it's all amounted to not mostly in terms of anything recognized by others or that lasts. Because why? Here's why. Because what beings in this world appreciate is they appreciate dark fucking sadistic sadism of a variety they like in another person. This is how you gain popularity. Look at any content creation channel that's popular. You'll notice that there's a specific narrative that's poking at a certain type of sadism within their commenters. What is the most common one within the fold of truther stuff? The narrative everybody loves to hear. Okay, we're soul beings over here and everybody else is an NPC. They're all NPCs, we're soul beings. Oh, aren't you so fucking amazing? You're some aware, awakened, enlightened individual, and everybody else is more ignorant than you. And every other fucking content creator is saying the same goddamn thing about you and everybody else. According to somebody else, you're the NPC, and they're the soul beings, right? So guess what? All the elites, they're laughing their asses off with everybody pointing their finger at everybody else. Oh, you're an NPC, over there. What are you doing? We're the soul beings over here. Like, you fucking idiot. What are you doing? Like, don't you understand this entire fucking narrative of NPCs versus soul beings is in and of itself what keeps this fucking squabble going and everybody arguing amongst themselves. It's stupid because it's come to this. The reality is all those motherfuckers are hypocrites. All the people creating truth shit, everything else, because they're all fucking thinking that they're the group or they're the one that's resisting the rest of reality, resisting the evil or whatever the fuck. But you analyze any of these individuals, right, in their personal lives, face to face, on the ground, they've all got dark as fuck things they're engaging in. Every goddamn case. Every one of them. I can guarantee you, it doesn't matter who it is, a female, a male, any age, however they portray themselves online, they're engaging in dark ass fucking shit behind closed doors, I fucking guarantee you. All right? They might not even be recognizing how dark it is that they're engaging behind closed doors, but they are. Right? Whether it's eating meat, slaughterhouse meat, whether it's fucking people over, whether it's being a hypocrite in terms of how they behave towards others, different from how they behave online, whether it's prideful arrogance, thinking they're better than others because they think they're more good or whatever, you can pinpoint it. So personally, I'm at this point, I'm just completely fed up with the almost the entirety of the whole conspiracy truth of the world because it never fucking ends. They never get out of their hypocrisy. They never acknowledge their own fucking evil and implication therein. They never understand how exactly the elites remain in power and why. And the only way to actually overcome them is to do what they're fucking doing, to actually bypass that. And they just go around in this fucking circle jerk of, okay, we're sold, we're great over here, and you over there, you're a bunch of shithead NPCs or AI hybrids or whatever else. Okay, keep producing that type of content for the next 30, 40, 50 fucking years while the elites continue ruling over everything. Or develop an elite mindset yourself to start stomping the ground and making shit happen by force. The only things that get done on large scale in this world are shit that happens by force. And it pisses me off, but that's the reality. I've experienced this in my life. It's only when I fucking yell and shout and I'm really fucking forceful with shit, even if it's good shit, like getting a bunch of fruit trees planted and just being really pushy about shit that's going to help people. I have to be fucking forceful. Every time I talk soft and nice and nothing fucking happens. It's people just like, they don't take any shit fucking seriously. It's like the only things people take seriously are shit that's fucking forced on them in their face. And it's ridiculous. So it's like, but that is what it is. So, we can spend the next 30 years, talking about this stuff, producing similar content, but we need to make shit fucking happen already. I'm going to be making shit happen in my life, and I have. But you know, we got to get out of this fucking circle jerk psychology of, you know, we're so great aware of this over here and everybody else is an NPC. How about let's just have the narrative of understanding what reality is and how it works. Never mind whether somebody's an NPC or a souled being or whatever the fuck, you know. You could have souled beings that compete with each other and hate each other. You could have assholes that are souled beings that despise other souled beings. This idea that a souled being is like going to be unified with other souled beings is also total bullshit, and a topic I'm going to cover a lot soon as well. So the point is there's a lot that can get done, but it only fucking happens if it's forced, verbally, emotionally, physically, or otherwise. And the whole history of the world shows this. Everything that fucking changed or happened, it was something done by force. There's not a single goddamn thing that happened without force, even if the force was an emotional force only and not a physical force. It had to be forced. So there had to be a mass of people pissed off about something enough to change it. So like women's rights or rights for people of other ethnicities. It took a huge amount of time, a huge amount of people emotionally surcharged to change the shit. So force, it requires fucking force, the principle of power to be executed. Lovey-dovey suggestions never change anything because nobody ever responds to things unless it's forced emotionally, verbally, or physically. So anyway, I've just spoken my piece on that one.
Well, this was a excellent speech by perpetual plagiarist or agnostic anti-natalist, as he was formerly known. I just want to say that he is definitely right. This world is ruled by power, by force, and by hatred and by evil. It is not ruled by love and by peace and by some benevolent qualities. Many people are saying that God is going to help us. First of all, if that source being wasn't omnimalevolent and wasn't infinitely greedy for power, it wouldn't be on the position for eternity where it is if it wasn't like that. Is it possible to destroy this piece of shit morbid God? I don't think it's possible to destroy an infinite source, omnimalevolent being. Even if you manage to destroy it, I think that this omnimalevolent trash put mechanism into all creation to pull it along with itself. So I say that if you, so I want to say that if you destroy this being, you will destroy everything. But I am the cause that if it were possible, willing to pay. Anyway, I just want to say hi to Mr. Joe Urban. I'm very glad that you are here, brother. I'm very happy that you are here. Rejected Rebel 2 says that he doesn't want anything of this piece of shit existence, that of course this existence is evil, but any sort of escapism is basically cowardice. But if you stay here, just as perpetual pleasurist told, and I completely agree with him, these elites are ruling through power, through force, through evil, through hatred, and through cruelty. More evil, cruel, and wicked you are, more power you have. Hey, brother, Joe Urban is here. Anyway, Joe, please say something.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
It goes great. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Just got off work at Pizza Hut. Oh man, I could not. The only reason I entered this stage was because I just had to respond to Gnostic anti-natalist / perpetual pleasurist. Man, it just sounds like you're kind of like becoming jaded. I mean, it sounds like you're a hard worker, and I know that it does take forcefulness to get things done. But in terms of like abandoning the like, say you apply it to the Abrahamic Middle Eastern God Jehovah, if we abandon the Nietzschean sense of slave morality, right, which is I think how the hardcore liberalism of today came about. Like, if you think about the decline of religion, what happened next? The hippie movements, and then all the rights movements, which there was good. There's always gold inside of the coal and ash, but for the most part, it has led to a decline of civilization. And now men and women, women showing their brown eye online to get $40,000 a month, and men many alone and abandoned, and just, the world generally entering into a state of decay, we can abandon slave morality as per the Christendom sort of rulership that has put men in a state of like, well, if you're meek and humble and you turn the other cheek and do nothing when power elites, smack you around, then that's actually a good thing, because it's all reverse in slave morality. Like, oh, we have to celebrate our weakness because that way, when Jesus comes back, oh, you wait, you're gonna get what's coming to you, buddy. And obviously nobody's coming, and we know that. But I don't think that means we should go the opposite, total opposite way, which is to say, I'll become the Nietzschean Ubermensch, but in the most malevolent way possible, by only seeking my own pleasure, validation as much as possible. Hedonism will only take you so far, and unity, which I experience like at my work with my closest friends, unity is possible. And I don't think we're aligning with any entities. Perhaps you yourself are only having a discussion with your id and ego and superego at the end of the day. Maybe there are no entities. Maybe it's just you.
Yeah. So with entities and stuff, whether they're actually there as physical conscious sentiences or not, I think is a secondary point anyway. My point being is that, yes, we can achieve unity and stuff to a certain extent in terms of working with each other, making stuff happen. And I have a very good interpersonal life. People treat me well. I have very good interpersonal dynamics. So when I go on these speeches about the nature of reality itself, it's very distinct from my actual day-to-day existence, which is interactively with people far more pleasant than I come across in a lot of pieces of my content. Because in my content, I'm talking about what I'm noticing and observing while the niceties and kindness and friendly things are happening. I'm aware of like this undercurrent of horror happening in front of my face while I'm intending for things to be the best, for physically helping people out. So there's all sorts of things I do to help others, but I'm aware vividly that as much as I might believe or think in illusion or in oblivious types of evil types of consciousness, in various types of oblivious if I think, okay, so for example, I recently let someone who I just met one day once stay with me. They were in a very emergency situation, needing someplace to stay. No one else was willing to help them or able to, and they would have been in a very bad place, an extremely bad place, factually, if I had not provided them with a place to stay. So I did that knowing full well that the consequences to me may be dire and it may fuck me over by doing so. But I could tell that it was the right thing to do according to my own moral compass and ethics. So therefore, it was like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. That inner voice within yourself. And having a great time. She treats me well. I treat her well. And things have gone good. But I realized that if I really hone in on it, I understand that even that act, as much as I would delude myself to believe, that act was me just being selfless. Okay, something might happen to me, but I'm going to help them anyway. I know fully well deep down in my deep subconscious that I'm aware that helping her is going to lead to an interpersonal connectivity of others seeing me a certain way and being willing to help me also if and when I need help. So that root selfishness is still there, as much as I may not be aware of it or consciously have it front of my mind. And I could pat myself on the back and say, oh, look how selfless I am in helping this person out. How amazing. And sure enough, others praise me for it. Oh, you're so amazing. You're the best boyfriend ever. Another girl is telling me, girl that I'm dating, thank you so much for helping my friend out. And everybody's praising me and glorifying me for being this nicety, lovey-dovey, amazing person. Yeah. And so, yeah, I believe about myself that I'm this lovey-dovey, kind, affectionate being. Of course I do. But I realize that is my ego and my arrogance telling me that. So I don't have this illusion anymore that I actually am, in any kind of objective sense, an actual lovey-dovey, affectionate being. I recognize where the selfishness is now. Whereas before, when I was younger, a couple years back, I had the psychology that I was objectively this lovey-dovey, wonderful, moral, ethical entity, but I realized, no, that's literally me egoistically seeing myself that way. And I'm fine with that. I'm actually good with that. And I realize that's what it is. I don't deny the ego or attempt to deny. I think it's something we should embrace. We should very much so embrace the ego. In fact, I see reality that we should embrace everything that clearly and obviously gives us easy access to pleasure and the maximizes that for every sentience around us. And what I've experienced is that the degree I maximize pleasure for those around me, to that degree I experience pleasure. However, the type of sentience that I clash with and am an opponent of and don't like is sentiences that suggest that any kind of suffering or struggle or agony should continue to exist. I feel a very intense degree of opposition to those people who suggest that. Specifically, like a vibrational degree inside me, I feel like really, really aggressively opposed to them even suggesting that, because it's interfering with my pleasure in the moment, as well as it's interfering with the sentiences, the pleasure of other sentiences going forward. So somebody's suggesting that no, instead of having a place of maximal pleasure, we should just have a situation where this world is maintained. I'm like, no, I'm opposed to that. I despise that. So it's like, because that's an interference, you see.
You just mentioned earlier planting fruit trees. That is an example in and of itself of delayed gratification. So suffering sometimes is mistaken as delayed gratification. If a man, like say animosity, works out, right, and he puts in the effort, maybe he is, quote unquote, according to your philosophy, punishing himself, but he's rebuilding himself 2 times greater than he was a month before in terms of, you know, the cellular biology rebuilding on a stronger wavelength. And so, I mean, that is delayed gratification. And we cannot mistake, you know, especially younger guys that might be listening, saying, well, you know, shoot it, smoke it, you know, get that bubble pipe, you know, or whatever, and just right now, because that will lead to misery beyond effing belief. Delayed gratification is a fundamental aspect, and that can be called suffering, but that suffering is taking you down a road to a better path.
This is very important to understand. Delayed gratification is directly suffering, even if it, I would consider that a redundancy principle. So even later on, it actually, hey, good to see you, man. Learner, good to see you.
You can continue. I don't want to interrupt you. Sorry.
So what I'm getting at here is this is exactly the point me and Demiurge keep bringing up, is the fact that no matter what the situation is in this reality, there's always some form of suffering imposed within your good intentions. So, for example, if you're exercising, sure, you end up with pleasurable results afterwards, but that's the dark fucking principle. You have to sacrifice something. So it's a form of micro torture. Exercise, even though it's not an excruciating type of torture, voluntary exercise, it is a form of micro self-torture, and that's the only way that you actually achieve a greater result afterwards, and that's what's fucked up about it. So planting fruit trees, all the headache I had to go through to convince other people who were oppositional to the idea, to convince them to explain it, to explain why it's a good idea, and getting past me being annoyed by how common sense it was, and just, you know, once I finally got them in the ground, people saw it, oh, cool, we have food here now. I was like, exactly, that's what I was trying to get at. If, you know, after all that time trying to convince them of something they should have understood to begin with, but didn't. But then here's the thing, afterwards, it's like I leave and then everything, and then it just falls apart and nobody maintains the stuff, nobody does anything with it. It's like, okay, great, sure. Yeah, I achieved this result, but because I didn't ensure that it forcefully stayed in place, that the fruit trees remained, and I was the one running the damn thing, then it just falls apart and nobody maintains anything. So it's like, okay, well, and believe me, the way I interact with people is very calm, laid back, pleasant, and polite. It's not the way I'm talking right now. I interact with people in ways that are very cordial, respectful, and reasonable. So what I'm trying to get at here is that it's important that we recognize that all of those forms of struggle or suffering, minor forms that are not direct torture, are still various forms of micro torture that philosophically and otherwise, I will never under any circumstances appreciate or agree with. So in the example of, I don't do drugs personally, because here's the thing, doing drugs like that, like the immediate gratification, it's so gratification, or you know, the reason I use the term perpetual pleasurist now for myself and my channel is that my principle is that when I'm engaging in pleasure, I'm also ensuring that is this type of pleasure I'm engaging in going to be guaranteed to last after right now? So if the answer is no, like in the case of certain drugs where you have a crash afterwards, I don't engage in those types of pleasure because it doesn't perpetuate. I only engage in types of pleasure that I can maintain after the fact perpetually. So like, for example, certain things that are good for my health, like air hockey, certain types of exercises that exercise my brain and body, those types I engage in because the pleasure lasts and it helps interpersonally. Certain ways of going about sexual intercourse, certain psychologies, the pleasure lasts from those things. Lifestyle choices and stuff like that, healthy diet. Pleasure lasts from those things and is not it doesn't stop. Now, in the process of that, is there some degree of micro torture into various degrees of self-regulation? Yeah, but it's actually, I look at it as a full picture. The full picture is that I'm experiencing far more pleasure because of all those small micro tortures than not. But I see it as in spite of the micro tortures, not because of them, even though the mechanics of reality are basically forcing us to engage in self-torture, such as exercise, micro torture, in order to have the results of bigger muscles, better health, etc. So it's like, okay, well, the reality is operating that way, but it's not something I value. I don't value the fact that I have to exercise to be more healthy. I would rather just being able to flick my fingers and have the physiology I want without having to continue to exercise. It's actually really annoying having to exercise and do all this shit that I could just rather have right there for me. Personally, I would prefer that reality. I don't appreciate things more that I've had to struggle for. I don't. And I don't relate with psychologies of people who appreciate things more than
Yeah, but it sounds like you take at least some level of pride in your regimen, and then you've expressed before frustration with other people when they're not abiding by some momentum principle that you're pushing them towards. So if you have in the aggregate people to compare your regimen or your lifestyle to, that is probably the part of the greater picture of your pleasure, is that you have a comparison. It's like in the Matrix where they said we had the in the lore of the Matrix, they had like the nightmare matrix, which people wouldn't accept, and then they had just the heaven bliss matrix, which humans would not accept. But if you were a god in a fruit tree garden and everyone was just floating orbs in a state of dopamine all the time, you would probably start to resent them because you're like, these fuckers, all they do is live in my land and they don't do shit. So if there is a god, maybe he figured out in his eternal nothingness or floatiness or whatever the hell he was doing before, maybe it was a multiverse, maybe he just figured out, there's really no point in these entities existing unless they are struggling against something, and that's just part of the program.
Well, that's very likely the case with why the reality is this way, if there's in fact a sentient source behind it at all that's calculated it. But I would say that what you suggested there about everybody floating in their own contained dopamine bubbles and stuff, that would be my ideal, and I wouldn't despise them for it. And in fact, that is exactly what I want for beings. I want to ensure that beings in my vicinity and connection would be to the maximum, to whatever degree I can, ensure that they have continual access as they desire to as much pleasure as possible at all times, and that they're freed from suffering.
That's like that girl. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So I was listening to you guys, and you guys were talking about like if there's a God and stuff like that. Like if God, let's say, he put us on this earth, and Joe Urban, you said that basically he gave us challenges because if we only had pleasures, life would be pointless, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very reductionistic way of putting it from my philosophy, but yes, basically.
Yeah, and one of the other things I was thinking about, like we're human beings, right? And all of us, one of our main purposes is to reproduce, right?
Yeah, I mean that our whole day kind of revolves around our crotch. Even our nutrients are going to our semen or our eggs, and so it's all boiling down to.
Yeah.
As antinatalists, we're purposefully not reproducing children, but yes, we're reproducing other things aside from children in the antinatalist sense.
So like even like when you read like these for example, these philosophies, scriptures, Bible and all of that stuff, like one of the questions I ask myself is like when God created man, he was like, okay, be fruitful and multiply. Like that's like the first commandment he gave to man. He didn't tell man to worship him during that time, because later on law, if you read, like, for example, the Bible, that's when you get the laws and all of that. But the first thing man was told to do was to reproduce. And that is like almost one of the hardest things for men to do, especially in this day and age. So I'm asking myself, like, why is it the thing we're meant to do? Or why is the thing we're born to do the thing which causes so much pain, so much suffering? Because let's be real for a moment. Like, most of the problems which we face in today's world, we can say it's because of one, two, three, but I think it's mostly because of this innate desire to reproduce. Like, why do you think war started? War started so like we can get resources, right?
Yeah.
But why do we want to get these resources? Do we just want to get these resources like for who? For what? We want to get these resources so that we can have children, and when we have children, yeah, life goes on. So this thing which we're told to do, why is it the same thing which causes pain, suffering, jealousy, envy? Like, why is this thing which God told us to do the same thing which causes
maybe
suffering?
Excuse me.
maybe God doesn't like civilized society, because in the Old Testament it was all it would even said, keep the little girls who have not slept with a man yet for yourselves. Numbers 31:17-18. Maybe God, or if we're comparing religious texts, maybe he doesn't like civilized society because it's bashing men. If you're unattractive, there's no wars to go to. There's no the grape of Nanking like in China from the Japanese. If in my 20s I was in competition with other men. Now in my 30s, I have sympathy on young men. If I was a general in an army and aligning myself with, my lesser demons, maybe in perpetual pleasures realm here, if I was aligning myself to look after my men, if I was a commander or a general, I would allow them their days of their own perpetual pleasure at the expense of others in the country we're invading, simply because I know my men will go insane if they have no reason to fight. Because back in America, they're told, we hate you, we don't want you. We got to make all of our movies about how evil you are just because you were born and you have an Audi rather than an innie. I think the world today goes categorically against this creator's intention. So be fruitful and multiply is impossible unless you're Giga Chad or Dan Bilzerian at this point. So this world, of course, is on the edge of like a Kali Yuga cycle. It's ending. It has to end. And it's natural, because then you have men that check out. They don't want to work anymore. They don't want to go fix the roads or the power lines when the hurricane comes. And the woke girls on OnlyFans are not going to go fix your power lines. So then society collapses. It's another Atlantis, and the whole cycle starts all over. It's just a natural occurrence. It's probably happened many times before.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Learner, I just want to tell you this. Do you know why God commanded you to be fruitful and multiply, as well as every other being? Because the God is a slave owner. He wants slaves, more slaves for a celestial tyrant, more slaves in a gulag for a celestial Stalin. This is why she told you to be fruitful and multiply. Work for me, go in wars to me, kill for me, rape for me, steal for me, murder for me, do this and that for me. This is why God told you to be fruitful and multiply, to constantly have supply of slaves who are going to do her bidding and her psychopathic commands and orders. This is why they told you. And this is why reproduction is by far the greatest evil you can do in this world. To bring your child into this world of horror, into a guaranteed death, pain and suffering, and then even worse, teach it religiously to command to go kill and this and that. Anyway, I just want to say, I think that the creation is omnimalevolent, and that the creator is omnimalevolent. But I would agree with you, Joe Urban, about what you said at the perpetual pleasurist, that all this pleasure and endlessly pleasuring yourself is just going to destroy you. You have to have limits, and you have to have boundaries. So I absolutely agree with you, Joe Urban, in that respect. But I also agree with the perpetual pleasuralist with his notion that the entire creation and creator is omnimalevolent. He says it's almost omnimalevolent. I say it's omnimalevolent. But I agree with you, Joe Urban, that there has to be standards, very high standards in order for you to push on, because because constant pleasure will destroy you. It is actually a greatest poison. Pleasure is strength leaving the body.
Well,
Pain.
look at Lizzo and Sam Smith and all these people who are just totally on the wavelength of just like, let me take it all in, chop my what off, get to 400 pounds, do everything I can, and these rituals on the Grammys and all that. It's like, you look at these people, and as long as they have 10,000 likes on every single picture and thing they post every 5 seconds online, they feel validated. But as soon as they're alone with their thoughts for more than 5 seconds, they're losing their mind because they're a miserable person. You have to
Yes,
build a cathedral, a castle of your own consciousness, your
absolutely,
soul, your
absolutely.
interior entity. And we cannot deny, even if they're whether this entity is apathetic or malevolent, he's definitely not benevolent. But I would prefer a God who is apathetic to one who cares, because the concept of a God who cares means that he's invested. So, like, what if I have a destiny, and what if I fail my destiny? That means my entire existence was pointless because of the one goal I didn't hit the target on the bullseye. So I would rather that this entity was apathetic. And a caring God is a bizarre idea. It's unusual to imagine that. So apathy is a form of freedom, because then we're all free, in which we are. We are all, we have to admit that, and maybe be thankful for that to this whoever, woo woo guy, is that he does at least allow us to have our interior world. We don't have chains on that. Now the television or the iPhones or the Snapchats, the YouTubes and all this stuff, that can put chains on you. That can, or the attachment to the box, on a chick, that can chain you. You can be chained by yourself. Most chains are unseen. Most chains are invisible because they
Yes,
are inside.
You know, one of the things I was learning growing up, I'm I'm all right. I can say this, like, the internet is a place where almost everywhere around the world people have access to currently this year. If somebody doesn't have access to it, they're probably living under a rock. But you know, young men, especially today, a lot of them, me included, who tend to like go on the internet, we tend to like try to search for answers because growing up, people say you grow up blue pilled. You go to school, you're told, hey, you can be anything you want to be, you can do anything you want to do, you know and as you go through like the school system, it reaches a point where you start to see like the realities of the world. And then now, once you start to realize the realities of the world and like, oh my gosh, or maybe being a nice guy wasn't the right thing to do. And then people are like, yeah, you shouldn't be a nice guy, you should be like a douchebag or something, if you want to get like the chicks or whatever. And then you're like, but if that's the case, you're telling me now I should stop doing what my parents told me to do and start doing what I should do to get like maybe a girlfriend or maybe to get pussy. Or like when your parents, they're like, hey, why don't you have a girlfriend yet? And it's like, I was doing what I was told to do all this time growing up. And then you start to realize that, man, the things which I was told, it doesn't work in the real world. And then once you start to realize that, I think that's where everybody starts to like branch out. Some people, they continue in the delusion. Some of us, we try to search for answers. And that's when you meet these red pill gurus who tell you, hey man, just get the money, get the cars, and you'll get everything. And it's like, yeah, it's cool to get this, but after I get that, what's next? Like, what's next? Okay, I'll get a girlfriend who probably already had her relationships, had her fair share. So you're telling me that I'm supposed to go through all of this pain, all of this suffering to achieve something which I was told to do by the creator? First chapter, it's like,
Yeah.
it's
My friend, let me tell you one thing real quick. You live in a time where the population of planet Earth is the highest it has ever been in the history of this planet, of humans. It's out of control, the population. Now, that is very important because, of course, resource scarcity is a thing. And what do women demand? They want to see the shiny, the bling, the money, the guy who's got 12 other girls surrounding him because she says, oh, that means he's got something good. I want what they want, and I want to compete with them to get that. So not only are most men in the past, and Animosity mentioned this before, most men in the past were cannon fodder. Most of us would have been dead already. And then the 20% that survived, they would have been the ones procreating. And then boom, you got another generation and another war and another. It's just, grow, decay, grow, decay. So the fact that there is no great war, now we're all competing for smaller and smaller resources. And you're in an economy where the world is now becoming more and more stringent on the money supply that goes to the lower class, even the middle class. And that is starting to disappear.
Yeah,
You have to contextualize your life and then release yourself, and also deprogram yourself. If you can grow your own, you say, I was told. Just focus on what your own true core personality is and make that the most brilliant and shiny and polished version of who you truly are. And F all the ideas of, I was told this. If you live like that, your whole life will be a ship without a sail, because every rope that people tie to your boat, they're just pulling you in any direction. Forget all their ideas.
And you know what? I agree with you on something you said. You're talking about Great War, this and that. There's this saying that, a lot of people, like, when they talk about this generation, they're like, oh, this generation of kids, they're not serious. This generation of kids, or like Gen Z or whatever, they say that like this generation is like messed up. But people don't tend to realize that this generation tends to be a product of the previous generation. So that's like the first thing. But also you talked about like a great war, like men in the past. I think that men in the past, like, how people say that, you shouldn't be depressed, you shouldn't be complaining because you have this, you have that, you have everything. Well, there is a truth to that. I do agree that, like, you should be grateful for the things you have, because there are people out there who like don't have anything. But then again, like, there's this concept of like group suffering, like when everybody goes through the same thing at once, it makes it like more bearable. Let's say like it was World War II right now. You're in pain, you're hungry, everything is going crazy, but you see maybe your neighbor beside you is in pain, your brother beside you is in pain. So it's like, you know what, I'm in pain, but I'm not the only one in this pain, whatever circumstance.
There was just a podcast on that. Men that were catatonic men at mental hospitals in the UK. As soon as the Germans started bombing London, men that were catatonic for 2, 3, 4 years in these mental hospitals, they got up, went outside, and just instantly started helping people. And in that podcast, they explained, you as a man, you don't want love. You want respect and adoration. Imagine a woman at, like on those old romantic novels from the 90s where it's like a woman at the knees of a man and he's like on the edge of a cliff and her hair is blowing in the wind. That's what a man wants. He wants adoration, respect. He doesn't need love, because he receives that love energy when she's all googly eyed and she sees he perpetuated through some difficulty, or he persevered, whatever. He proved himself. And she's like, wow, this is a guy, he's a hero. And men love that. Women are love creatures. So men going to psychologists and taking these stupid SSRIs and all this crap, it's not going to do anything. It's not solving any problem. All it's doing is trying to put 50 different Band-Aids on top of a wound that doesn't even need a Band-Aid. It needs real medication. And the medication is purpose.
That is true. And you know what? And that's why I think like the philosophers of the past, like the great Greek philosophers and stuff, I think that these kinds of people, like, I think they caught up to all of the bullshit. And that's why like people like Socrates, I don't know, Plato, I don't know, Aristotle, they're like, hey man, stoicism, like they came up with like ways how to live life. I feel like, I think philosophy is the best way to approach life. Like, you gotta like learn philosophy like from these great thinkers and take what's good. Religion, the only good thing about religion is the fact that it gives you a moral compass. But other than that, if you want to talk about like the spirituality of it, like the rules of it, like that's where you can debate, but it's not really that important. It's that it gives people a sense of morals. It gives people a sense of, hey, I want to do good. I want to do good. I want to do this. I want to do that. But as you know, like if you're a person who is open-minded, you don't need to believe in something to do good to other people. You should do good to other people because you want to do good to other people. I think Animosity talked about this in one of his videos. I watched some of his videos, but like for some reason, if you feel like you need to believe in something so as you can justify yourself being good to another person, it's like, it's crazy, man.
So I had something to say in. These are all very good points, actually, you guys are bringing up. But it was in response to Demiurge Killer as well as Joe Urban, and also in relationship to some things you brought up, Learner, as well. So I'm going to try to be as brief as I can, mainly because I have to go fairly soon. I wish I could stay longer. I'm really enjoying the chat. But basically, in essence, I want to clarify something. So when I use the word perpetual, the perpetual part is the part of the self-regulation to ensure the pleasure. So ensuring that pleasure comes from self-regulation. But what I suggest is self-regulation to degrees that never causes you any notable degree of suffering where there's no longer pleasure there. For example, if I do like hardcore mountain hiking, etc., I get pleasure out of that. I get more pleasure from that than any amount of the struggle that entails. However, I would never do that to the point that it went beyond that and started causing me suffering, unless obviously I was forced to do so. I wouldn't voluntarily increase the suffering more or put the regulation higher than the pleasure. So my point with the perpetual pleasure is the perpetual part is the self-regulation part to ensure the continuation of pleasure. And I oppose the idea of crash and burn types of pleasure, where it's, okay, let's just go all in, not considering what follows. Because my consciousness, I deeply consider the pleasure lasting afterwards. I don't just look at something, okay, pleasurable for a few minutes, and then it's going to, if anything causes side effects or problems to my system, it's not what I consider to be a greater degree of pleasure. The greater pleasure to me is something that involves pleasure that's maintained, even if it has to be at a somewhat lower level, but that continues via in connection to some self-regulation, even though I would prefer a reality where self-regulation was not required. I'm aware that it is required in these cases. So that's basically what I'm getting at. I never vouch for any kind of non-benevolent hedonism where it's just all in, indulge, and then everything just falls apart afterwards. Because there's a lot of idiots who engage in pleasure that way. Just a bunch of, I'm not saying idiots in the sense of that they themselves are like useless beings. I'm saying in the sense of how they're deciding to go about pleasure. It's a very irresponsible, idiotic way to do it, because it's going to guarantee that they feel suicidal and depressed afterwards and have all sorts of problems, addictions, etc., that are not healthy. So that was the one clarification I wanted to make, Demiurge, on that. Also, the second clarification, I really want people to understand this about me personally, is that if you talk to me like directly face-to-face in conversations one-on-one, or have interactions with me in person, personally, I actually live a very fulfilled, happy life. I'm not a depressed person. I don't actually get angry very easily at all. It's just when I talk about really deep philosophical things or things pertaining to this type of stuff that I consider very serious topics, my awareness of the fact that reality is this dark thing, and I wished it were otherwise, even though I've gotten rid of that hopium aspect of things the last year or so. What I'm trying to get at is that basically I would prefer a reality where everything was entirely benevolent, but I'm aware that's not the case. And the main source of my frustration and annoyance all these years was the fact that that isn't the case. And I've had to basically compromise with the reality the way it is, which requires self-regulation and struggle and all this type of stuff in order to achieve the perpetuation of these pleasures. But it's never something I will ever value. I'll never value apathy. I'll never value malevolence. I'll never value indifference. I'll never value suffering for its own sake. I'll only value the results that are what I consider existing in spite of those things, beyond those things. So the result of having a body that's more physically healthy, the result of having healthy dynamics with women in my life, the pleasurable result is what I value. I don't value the struggle part that leads to it, though.
Yeah, but what if you got a girl pregnant in this expeditions of women behinds that you're talking about? What if you got one pregnant? would you command them to then end it, which causes maybe her distress, and then you're eliminating the possibility of someone who is an offshoot of you yourself having this perpetual pleasure. So how can you be an antinatalist if you're obsessed with pleasure in terms of tantric love? I mean, I've been with plenty of women. In my 20s, I was with, I'm not trying to brag, but I was at least over 40. But, and I was pretty good looking in my earlier day. But, I knew at the time, like, if I have a child, I want to keep it because I'd love to perpetuate. But, of course, as time goes by, you look at things and you're like, holy crap, what the hell is going on here? But now I don't do anything, nothing.
No, antinatalism, I'm opposed to abortion. Abortion is very different from antinatal. Antinatalism is I will never voluntarily on purpose impregnate.
But the risk reward is very high.
Sure. And that's why I say I'm also not a fanatic either. I'm aware that's the case, and I'm aware that's a variation of evil itself. The risk is a type of evil, as well as apathy. Apathy is its own type of evil. Indifference is a type of evil. I'm just choosing which type of evil I'm engaging, and that's exactly my point. I'm aware of exactly what you're talking about, every variation of things you're mentioning, and that's exactly the point that Demiurge and I keep bringing up, is that we could discuss and we could go back and forth and we could talk about our different views, what we value about struggle or not, how we value things, etc. The point is we have different perspectives on and are engaging in different variations of evil is really what it comes down to. So basically we're just determining, okay, are the people that I'm interacting with contributing and aligned with the type of things I wanted to achieve or not?
But what if you happen to get with a girl who is still able to do pair bonding and she becomes attached to you and then you break her heart? Are you accepting of that form of evil that you're partaking in? Is that what you're saying? You embrace that as your doctrine of who you are?
No, but because my intention, I don't embrace.
Do you sleep with cougars alone?
I don't intend to ever.
Your intentions don't matter. The outcome is what matters.
Well, yes, the outcome is what matters. So yeah, I accept the evil that takes place.
Okay, you do. All right, got it. Just wanted to know.
Obviously, I don't desire to break people's hearts. If their heart is broken, it's what happens. It's not because I am myself wanting their heart to be broken. Or
you're not the tide on the ocean being pulled by the moon. You're a human being with agency.
Well, we can discuss agency as its own topic and stuff like that. But I see what you're saying in terms of agency regarding, yes, I embrace whatever the result is of the things that I.
All right. Well, I needed to know that, and I got my answer. Thank you.
I think everyone should do that also because it's the responsible thing to do. I think very few people actually do that in life, and that is the big issue that a lot of people face. They don't accept the result of what they do, and that they're implicated in the evils that happen to others. I very much do so.
I saw a girl who I was in love with, for a short time, but I fell out of love with her. But I kept seeing her because she was so hooked on me when I was like 21 and she was 19. And ultimately, she, ended up in a mental facility while she was at FSU in the west coast of Florida while I was on the east coast. And the repercussions on her family and her that happened in my early 20s that I saw because I was just wanting to ride motorcycles. And now, I blame her partially because she literally she kind of created me into the bad boy. Like she encouraged me to get more tattoos and to, keep associating with these people because I could tell she had been so sheltered her whole life that she got a thrill out of associating with me while I, had this house that my parents gave me and I was partying and shit. But what happened later on, there was repercussions on her life that, she turned into a shell of her former self. And I saw that and I witnessed that. And I had to pay the consequences in terms of like just the guilt and the self-loathing and all that for years. And I truly see that no matter what, we're all molecules interacting in a universe of other molecules. So we cannot help but bump into and play bumper cars with all of them. It's inevitable.
Right. Yep. You're implicated in that evil as well as I am. So it's very good realization. Yeah.
Can someone say anything about the reptilians or royal bloodlines? Something about that? That was the original topic of this live stream.
I want to say something about it.
Super. Excellent.
first of all, like we all heard about like these reptilians. Now I can't use like extreme terms, but like there are places like, first of all, conspiracy theories concerning aliens, concerning Area 51, concerning all these things. One of the things that these guys have done so well, and I feel like it's something which it's right before our eyes, but people tend to see it as like a joke or just entertainment, is like when they portray these things in movies. We've seen movies about aliens, we've seen movies about um mutants, you know. Maybe you watch Marvel, it doesn't matter, DC, if you're like, but like if you watch like the things which are like really like deep into this stuff, especially like alien invasion movies, I'm like, first of all, if these aliens exist, if these reptilians exist, whatever they are, why didn't they descend right now? And if these things are really real, why is it like portrayed as a joke? Why is it portrayed as like entertainment? Why isn't this stuff serious? Of course, there are people who like do documentaries, maybe watch the History Channel and such things like that. But like if these things are truly taking place and if these things are real, why is it portrayed in a joke in such a way when you're like showing like these things are happening, like invasion, UFO, like sightings, like all of these things, they have evidence to them, but then again they continue to portray them as entertainment and as jokes. Like that's the one thing I never understand.
Well,
About that,
I just wanted to say one thing, right? I would say two things is that number one, the elite like to flaunt their power by showing that even when they put things directly in your face, they can just tell it. They can just basically, put it out as a joke, and people, still won't believe it, regardless of um, how many times you see Joe Biden can't even put a full sentence together. He's not even cognitive of where the hell he is, but somehow people somehow think that he's even a real president. It doesn't really matter because it's all about them flaunting their power. It's all one big joke to them, and yeah, that's all I have to say.
I also want to say that reptilians are here the entire time. They don't need to descend. They have descended in the past and they will descend in the future. But right now they are ruling through their hybrid and human puppets, such as bankers, such as uh, royal bloodlines, such as politicians, so on and so forth. Then you ask, why is it uh, uh, joked about? Because all serious things are inverted in this world. All things are inverted in this world. For example, you have in Disney, you have an Aladdin, and it's a jinn spirit. It's a wish granting spirit. That wish granting spirit is a jinn. In a Disney, it is depicted as some sort of benevolent wish granting helpful spirit. Jinns are jinns are actually extremely malevolent, extremely powerful spirits, which basically cause your wishes, which basically fulfill your wishes, but after they have fulfilled them to you, you will wish that you have never wished them. Contract with them is like death. Anyway, learner, say something.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like like especially like when you look at these religions and stuff, like one of the things like I came to find out, like for example, if you look like religions such as like, oh sorry, that was my timer. When you look at religions such as like Islam, you know, Christianity and the such, like okay, like look at Christianity for example, like there's this thing such as speaking in tongues, you see. So like I'm like, okay, this person is speaking in tongues. In the Bible, if you look at what speaking in tongues is, this is an example. It's basically like, because like during the past, everybody spoke different languages, and then for some reason God, because human beings wanted to go all the way to the heaven, he was like, you know what, I'm gonna like confuse all these people. So technically, basically, uh what can I say, like, assumedly, after Christ ascended and like the disciples wanted to start their preaching, they had to talk to people from other nations, and they're like, okay, how can we communicate with these people? And during that time, it said that they received power, from God, and they were able to speak in a way such that everybody from all places around the world could understand the message of the gospel. But if you look at like speaking in tongues today, it's all gibberish. So I'm like, who are you talking to? What language are you trying to speak? And I'm like, throughout the years, is this what this Christianity has supposedly become? I don't know. But like, as you said, like these elite bloodlines, these reptilians, whatever, like people would be showing videos of like shape shifting, and I'm like, even if it's real, nobody's gonna take it seriously.
Right.
I would
And
say yes. Well, I would say this. You have to realize that all the stories in the Bible are basically mythology. Bible is written by the occult secret societies in order to deceive the entire world. Bible is encoded with black magic. Problem is that the historical figure of Jesus, Yeshua, never existed, as well as David, Solomon, Moses, apostles, Joshua, Abraham, Isaac, that never existed. They are all they are all parables for the Hyksosian reptilian invaders of this realm. Because Bible was written and distributed by the Vatican and by the small hats in order to deceive the entire world.
Yeah, like I remember reading this book. It was talking about how the Jesuits, like the people like Jesuits under like the Roman Pope, like these
Yes.
guys, they caused, like, I'm not gonna lie, this book was like they explained how they caused the Titanic, how they caused World War I, and how they
You
caused
mean
World War II.
the book of Alberto Rivera?
Uh, I don't know. I don't remember the title. Maybe it was that, but like there's this book I was reading. It was explaining how the Jesuits basically planned all of these things so that they can basically create chaos. Like you're creating chaos, and then through creating chaos, you offer the solution, which will give you the power. And it's like, come on.
Jesuits were just the modern society which worked on that way. Uh, all problems stems from the demiurge, then to his archons, then to reptilians, and then to his, actually her chosenite tribe here on earth, which taught the Jesuits and secret societies such techniques. Do you know such? Uh, do you know who I'm talking about when I speak about small hats and chosenite tribe?
Yeah, I understand.
Ah, okay.
Animosity, you have anything?
No, no, no. But PP wanted, freaking Gnostic anti-natalist wanted to get on and say another thing, but it said his device wasn't connected, so I think he's going to try to join again because he said he had something to say.
Yeah, man, like these reptilians, I remember, like, I don't know, it was like, I don't know, it was a few years ago. They were saying like these reptilians, like their blood type, Like, you know, there's this rhesus factor, like negative, positive, something like that.
HR negative, yes.
Yeah, HR negative. They're like saying like if you're like like if like the like royal bloodline for some reason they all had like negatives or something. And I really
Yes.
don't know. And I really don't know what this rhesus factor deals with, but like all I know is that these royal bloodlines, they tend to like be associated with like different biological conditions which you can't compare like with the normal person.
Of course, I
Right.
mean,
And because
because
another thing about this inbreeding, these motherfuckers are. I just want to, yeah, I just wanted to say that one reason for that is because of inbreeding. They like to keep their bloodline pure. A lot of them are nasty as fuck, and as we talked about before with the celebrities and whatnot, a lot of these celebrities that are even married to each other, they're fucking related distantly, but it doesn't really change the fact that they're still related, and a lot of them are related to Queen Elizabeth. So they like to keep their shit pure as hell, man. They're inbred, man. They be fucking each other, all types of nasty shit.
yes, and they are reptilians. So you have an inbred reptilian jinn possessed monsters ruling the world. So no wonder why their blood types are all monstrous.
Right.
Like you guys were talking about, I watched one of your I watched like one of the your lives. You were talking about like the sharpshooter, and like as you
Right.
and I remember you guys were I think it was a demiurge killer. You're talking about how these like sharpshooters basically had no need to be put in the population. Like basically you're saying that you're just like signing your life away or something like that. And people all around the world, like for example, like where I was living, there are people who are like denying it completely. Some people are like, hey man, if they wanted to like eliminate us, they would have done it already. But I'm like, why was this why was this COVID? Like there's even a book, like there's a woman who like explained COVID. And like another thing is that these elite bloodlines, whatever you're talking about, these elites, like there's a movie you should check out. I think it's called Contagion. Do you know Contagion?
I haven't watched that movie.
Yeah, I've seen it. Or at
Contag
least I know it.
you watched it, Animosity?
Yeah, I know of it. I'm pretty sure I've seen it around. I don't know if I've seen it because I've seen a lot of like disease, zombie, or not even just zombie, but pandemic type movies. I've seen a lot of those, but I've heard of
Yeah.
yeah, Contagion. Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah, so Contagion, man, that movie, it like it showed like the whole 2020. Like in the beginning, it shows like people in China, they show a bat, I don't know, fall on a piece of meat. Like it showed everything till like people wearing masks, and that was like 10 years ago before like the sharpshooter event. So I'm like, these people can say, it's this, but it's like it's predictive programming. It's like
Right.
Absolutely.
they program you. Like for example, you guys heard about, maybe, I don't know. Nah, I don't remember that event. I don't remember it properly. But like basically there's a place somewhere where a train crashed, and a movie about it was like in the cinemas like 1 year ago. So I'm like, how is it that these people
Oh
are
yeah.
making this? You know what I'm talking about, Animosity?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that event, it happened, and I'm like, people are gonna be like, oh, it's predictive and people know this. This is the biggest problem. People, when you look in social media, when people are talking, there are people who tend to be aware, like, hey man, there's somebody doing this, but nobody cares. It's like it reached the point where you know that this is a problem, but you can't do anything about it. And it's like these guys, these reptilians, elite bloodlines, whatever you want to call them, Like they already like it reaches the point that even when you want to talk about these things to some people they might agree with what you're saying, but even they might go against you because they just don't want to do anything about it. That's the worst part, you know. It would be better
Exactly.
if it would
Exactly.
be it would
That
it would
I don't mean to cut you off, but
yeah,
I don't mean to cut you off. That's the issue. A lot of people, they don't want to take any action, basically, and that's why I can't stand the whole Jesus is gonna come back from he's gonna pop out of somebody's ass and save us. It's like humans are responsible for the antics of other humans. If a group of humans are doing fuck shit, another group of humans has to come in and stop them. Nobody's coming to save you. So
Exactly.
really, what the whole savior thing is, it was basically this fabricated thing by the elites. And what it is right, it makes people
Society.
docile. Yeah, it makes them docile. And it basically makes it so that, okay, if these people think that a savior is going to come for them, then they're not going to do anything about the fuck shit that we're doing to them because they think that somebody's going to come to save them. But that's not the case. If you don't take action, you're just going to keep getting fucked over. And that's what people don't understand. Nobody's coming to save you. Jesus is a bitch. So is God. So I mean, really, you gotta you gotta you gotta take action.
yeah, like for example, like one of the things I know, like for example, like I've read like Bibles before, and I've read like scriptures and stuff like that. Like especially if you read the Bible, man, like growing up, you know, in a religious family to some extent, you know, going to church, like people, like, especially when it comes to the Bible, you know, like people don't like, for example, like demiurge killer, you know, when you talked about reptilians, when you talk about like these elite bloodlines, all of these things, like, you know, like when you read certain books about, like, you know, have you ever heard about the Apocrypha?
Yes, I have heard it and read it. Yes.
So you've heard about the apocrypha, right? Like the
Yes.
funny thing about like people who are like in religion, I'm like, okay, if you say you believe in God, right, you should try as much as possible to understand him, right? But these people say they believe in God, they don't even try to understand his true nature. So I'm reading the Bible, and there's places in the Bible where God says, I create evil and I create good. I'm the one who brings like the problems. But then again, you go like in the New Testament and it's just like, God is love. And that's all you need to know. So I'm like, you're just gonna take the New Testament and ignore everything in the Old Testament, what God said when he told people like, hey, go kill these people, go do this, go do that, destroy everything, even cattle, don't leave even animals. Do you know that there's such scriptures like that in the Bible?
Yes.
Like God was like, hey, destroy everything, not even cattle. Like even cattle should be killed. Like even I think like Solomon, he did something where he killed a, like, I don't know what they're called, I don't remember the name, I didn't read the Bible in a long time.
Amalekites.
Yeah, Amalekites, kill everybody, and don't even leave
David
the
did that.
cat, don't even
David
kill
did that.
what.
David annihilated the Amalekites.
Oh yeah, but I think you. Oh, it's not. Oh, I'm talking about Saul. Yeah, I think he was the
Yeah,
king
yeah,
before.
Saul.
I think he was the king before David. I think
Yes,
Saul. He was given the like command, go kill everybody, kill everything, don't leave anything alive. But he was like, you know what? Let me take this goat, and let me give it to, I don't know. Let me give this goat to like God, and God was like, why did you give me the cattle? I told you to kill the cattle. And then he stripped him from his position. Or if you hear the
yes,
story, like one of the most brutal stories in the Bible, like, for example, like you try to understand, like, why did God do this? It's the story between Jacob and Esau.
Yes, that one he loved from the beginning, and the other he hated, and he approved when Jacob deceived the Esau for the birthright. Yes.
Yeah, and it's like, is it really like you try to understand these things, and it's like people like they don't. It's like you turn a blind eye, but like so as to continue believing what you want to believe in, but like logic or the truth does not care about what you believe in, right?
Of course.
Right.
Of course.
Of
So like
course.
now, and I was talking about, I talked about like this apocrypha thing, and like for example, if you read the book of Enoch, that book is very eye-opening. It makes you like, I'm not saying if it's real or not, but like it gives explanation to like why we have the things we have, like technology, weapons, the ability to kill other human
You
beings.
mean the book of Enoch and the book of Jasher?
Yeah, like that book, it's like it's very eye-opening to see how these beings descended upon earth, mixed their bloodline with humans, and it's like, how could all of this happen
Uh, the
at once,
Watchers, yes.
and why did they even come down in the first place?
Because it was all under the command of the higher evil spheres, and these higher evil spheres and everything is subject to the God most malevolent, who is the greatest evil in there. And by the way, original world was supposedly vegan or vegetarian, something like that, and yet today no one can survive on vegan diet, and they are deficient on vegetarianism. How is that possible if that was the original diet? Either the genes went tempered, but if the genes are tempered, then correct everything. Why do you have to destroy everything? So this is your merciful God.
Yeah, man. Like as I said, like you know, people, like if somebody wants to like as like because the elite bloodlines, all of these things, we don't see them. All we know is that they're in places where human beings, they're not allowed to go. For example, Antarctica. Some people believe that's the end of the earth. But when you open the map, for some reason, there's like so many military bases on Antarctica, and there's even places where you're not supposed to go. Like there's some places on Antarctica you're not allowed to step on. So you're asking yourself, what's going on over there? Why can't we go? Of course, it's a deserted place, but it raises many questions. Like, I don't know, man. It's crazy.
Right. Right. And honestly, a lot of people will say, okay, well, if you believe that, God is evil, or, if you know that all this indoctrination is bullshit, then why do you still believe in there being a God? Now, for me, the reason as to why I believe that there is a God, because a lot of atheists ask me this and stuff like that. The reason why I believe is because I don't know. I just look at life, and I don't know if you guys agree or not, but life seems a little too systematic in order to just be random. Especially if you take a look at stuff like space and the system in which things like nature work. You look at especially in space, you look at how planets revolve around other things, or they rotate on their axis, and as a result of that, this thing happens, and because this thing happens, it triggers this thing to happen. It's too systematic. I do believe that there is someone behind the curtain, and this thing is not good.
And then you ask yourself, like, then why
Entire
why did
space is false. Entire cosmology is one giant lie. This NASA and astronauts, it is all a lie. The Earth is a flat plane of inertia.
oh yes, like like the flat earthers, like for some reason, like, and then this is where another issue comes. Like people are like, oh, flat earthers are stupid. It's like, no, how can you call the people who are the basis of like I'm not talking about the flat earthers of today. I'm talking about the people who were flat earthers in the past. You're telling me that these people were stupid in their deductions when the people in the past, I could say that they were even more creative than the people today, because the people of today don't even think about the shape of the earth. They just know what's the shape of the earth. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
So like
Right.
so like so like these flat earthers, when they say like, hey, the earth is flat, you could say they're stupid, but you say they're stupid because, hey, look at the photos, look at the NASA satellite, whatever. And it's like, but these flat earthers, of course, they might not present you evidence which you can look with a camera, but like when they explain, it's like it comes from a deductive, like it comes from a logical point of view. Like, hey man, you're standing on Earth, the plane is flat. People say, well, why is there a horizon? There could be a horizon, maybe because that's there could be like some explanation. I don't know. But as you said, the flat earth stuff, like there is some truth to that. There is some truth. We never know.
Perpetual. Anyway, Leonard, I just want to say something that perpetual pleasurists wanted to say, and that the reptilian nature indicates a cold, calculating nature of a reality, and this is why the reptilians are on top, and that the entire reality is like that. So he wanted to say this when he wanted to join. Unfortunately, he didn't have time, so I'm saying that. So entire reality is basically reptilian, cold, calculating, and evil in nature. I just want to say that.
All right. I mean, I think I'm gonna end it here because we've spent like almost 3 hours now. But if you guys have any finishing things you want to say, go ahead. But I'm gonna end it here.
No,
Uh, all I can say is that, hey, be open minded.
of course.
Yeah. Right. And I think, um, in terms of open mindedness, I think I'm gonna do a stream on people like latching on to scientific evidence and what the science says, because I don't think what people understands is science is open to evolution and change through new evidence, new discoveries, and you know um
And
yeah,
lies.
new evidence and new discovery. Yeah. Yeah,
And
that as
and you know
well.
what?
So
And 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 you know what? I agree with you because like just look at the people like in the past, how they were learning. Like the people in the past, the way they were learning, they weren't learning like through going to school, staying in class, learning like formulas. They were basically learning the thing they were interested in. So like if somebody was interested in light, they started just studying light. Of course, there are people who are like good in all spheres, so they knew math and everything, but like most of the time people would just work on one thing and then they would combine their theories together, and if there's anything new discovered they would add on to it. But ever since the school system started, it's like it's killed the creativity of people, because
right,
once you tell yourself, okay, 1 plus 1 is 2, of course it's 2, we have accepted that, we use that, but that's the truth. Like, but there's some things which are not completely true, and we've just stuck to that as a whole, as like the truth, because a lot of people just don't think outside the box, and thinking outside the box needs you to like be able to focus on one thing, compared to like, that's why some people don't like school, because it doesn't teach you what you need to do. It only teaches you it, it teaches you a lot of bullshit, and then later on it teaches you what to do, and even that thing which you're taught to do, you tend to lose interest because it's like you wasted time, or it's not even worth it anymore.
right, exactly. And another thing about science, the thing about, right, once it comes to scientific discoveries, all people like to act as if scientists can tell you everything, as if they're God or something. Like, all a scientist can really do is tell you what they think they know based off of what they have found. Just because I don't think people even understand how science works. Just because they say there's no scientific evidence for something, that doesn't mean the evidence doesn't exist. It just means it hasn't been found. And then on top of that, what you have to consider is you don't know what organizations these scientists work for. You have no idea what the hell they're doing in these deep underground military bases. You have no idea what they're working on in these labs. And if you seriously are that gullible and that much of a dumbass to the point where you think that the elite and the world leaders tell us about everything new that they've discovered, you're a jackass. Like, there's nothing else to really tell you. It's okay, obviously, to want evidence for something, but a lot of these people are very surface level, gullible thinkers. Like, they don't really, like, most people are just not really capable of thinking past a certain extent. Like, they just think they have all the answers. Like, whenever they say, okay, this is what the so-called science suggests, that's the end all be all, because once again, science is open to new evolution and change through new discoveries, first of all. And second of all, you have to ask yourself this: are these people even telling you the truth?
Yeah, man, it'll be a cool stream.
It's all lies. It's all lies.
He said, it's all lies.
It is scientism. It is not a real science. It is a total lie.
Yep. They just tell people a lot of bullshit. I think I'm gonna do a stream on like the scientific evidence thing and also the school system. Because I remember, because I know Lerner said that people weren't sitting down in classrooms and doing like, you can even look at the education. The education system is bullshit. It doesn't feel. I hated school. It doesn't feel natural. Like, you can't tell me that it feels natural for you to just be going to this place every day and you just don't want to be there because you're sitting in this classroom listening to this jackass talk about something you don't care about. Like, it just doesn't feel natural. You can't say that there isn't a better, more efficient way to educate or teach. Like, that's the issue, man. Like, school, it makes learning like not fun, really.
And one of the things,
realistically, learning, yeah.
Oh, sorry. You can finish. I'll say it when you're done.
Well, I was just gonna say, realistically, when I do my own research on stuff, and I try to increase my knowledge, and I go and conduct my own studies and my own research, I actually have fun. But in school, whenever you're just sitting down in that classroom, it's like draining. And you're sitting in a classroom with these ugly ass kids and these goddamn teachers just saying bullshit. Like, it doesn't feel natural. It just,
man.
You just don't want to be there, man. Like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, and that's why, like, for example, in the West, like, they're having this, like, the West complains about having a crisis. I don't know, maybe in also other parts of the world, but like in the West, especially like in America and stuff, like, you discover that people are saying, people don't want to go to college anymore. And especially like if you see these STEM courses, like, what's the problem? Like, in the past, people used to have a master and there's an apprentice. So if there's a master in carpentry, you would learn carpentry. If there's a master in medicine, you would learn medicine. He wouldn't teach you about politics. He wouldn't teach you about what the farmer is doing. If you want to learn how to farm, you go to the farmer. But if your master was a person who specialized in medicine, you would learn medicine from the get-go. You didn't need to learn all this extra stuff. But these days, you have to go through school. Now, of course, there's the general knowledge, right? There's the general education. Like, everybody should know how to read. Everybody should know how to write. Everybody should know the history of their country, even though it's not really that important for your present life. But you should know the history, like what happened, even though it's lies. But you should be knowledgeable. But like, after high school, if someone says they want to be a doctor, they should learn, like, from the get-go, the things they need to do as a doctor. Now you just do all these kinds of classes. It's like you waste money, you waste time, and then you lose effort, you lose motivation, and then it's crazy. That's why people like drop out and stuff. And like, I don't know, man, it's crazy.
Yeah, I agree. Demiurge Kill, you wanted to say something?
Well, I just want to say that the reptilians are ruling this world. We are living in omnibenevolent creation, and that this was a great live stream.
Yeah. It was a great live stream, man.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for coming on. And I guess next live stream is probably going to be about the education system and the fuckery of school. But I hope you guys enjoyed this live stream, and see you in the next one. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.